Hey everybody, it's Corey Poirier here with the Blue Talks Flip Your Script event with my co-host Ilyse Rothman. And
everybody.
I'll say we have our first guest is on the screen right now. We're going to be introducing her soon. You can probably see her name if you're watching this because her name probably shows up on the stream. Before we jump into introducing our fantastic first guest, Ilyse, I'd just like to ask you quickly, how was your evening last night? We had a lot of great energy all week we have, but yesterday we had a lot of great energy as well. Anything that I'm going to say resonated with you or came up overnight or anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, we had, Don Cote, or Don Cody is what we call him. He's going to be our guest next Friday. He'll be my special guest on the Flip Your Script Friday. He wasn't able, technical issues. Sometimes we just have technical difficulties. So Don wasn't able to share with us, but wow, blown away by Dr. Kyle Forley. How do you pronounce his last name?
Farrelly, I believe is how.
Farrelly. And he was talking about
Ferroli. I think
Ferroli.
I thought of Adam Carolla when he said it yesterday, so Ferroli, I think.
Yeah, great guy. Love what he brings to the table. He helps people when they're ready to know the why of how come things aren't really working out? Why are they out of alignment in their own lives, right? So he has the why. He talked about brain scans and how we can see where the wiring, where we need to reframe and that sort of thing. Totally up my alley as an EFT practitioner and getting to the emotional root and the old story that holds us back. And then Juju, wow. That's all I have to say is wow. She got on the screen and she just lit up my life. And I'm sure everybody who was watching. So I definitely would say go back and watch the replay. And her message is really clear. Her message is there is nothing that you need to do, be, or have in order to be who you want to be right now. Feel how you want to feel right now. And actually, Corey, that's a good lead into when I come on, because we're going to chat a little bit. And that is going to be my focus, how to be the intentional creator of the life that you love and love yourself in. And so that'll be the topic, but she really just like went right into it, didn't she? I was like goosebumps the whole time. So I'm super excited to have our guest on today because I think she's a compliment to everybody this week. Rhonda is here and I'm going to get to learn so much about you, Rhonda, because we're just meeting for the first time today. So Corey, I'm going to let you do the introductions because I know that you and Rhonda, know each other from the past, and you can do her way more justice than I. But I bet I'll have some good questions for you as we go.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say, because you might wonder if you're, depending again, if you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, but I just posted BlueTalks.com in the comments because sometimes during this event, I forget to mention that you can get more information there, whether you want to see some of the speakers and watch their video. Ilyse is coming out soon. Rhonda's will be coming up in the future. Also, if you want to listen on the podcast, Ilyse is already on the podcast, I believe. We already have her interview, her live talk airing on the podcast. And then the book series, the first edition just dropped and it just made the charts on both sides of the border. So lots of big things happening, but BlueTalks.com is where you can find that. That's my only sort of PR about Blue Talks.
Well, it's where you can find everything and you can actually send people to get here as well. So
absolutely. And so having said that, what I like to do with introductions, I'm a little different than in all ways probably than most interviewers, in the sense that most interviewers would probably have a sheet of paper here with a person's bio and I'm not knocking that or saying it's bad or good, but reading the person's bio, much like when I'm at an event, I try to memorize some elements of the person and introduce them that way. I don't usually read a bio. It's just my approach. So I usually like to talk about where I met the person or how I know the person, and then get them to tell us a little bit about themselves as well. So I guess first and foremost, Rhonda Huff, where I met Rhonda, and this is kind of unique. We talk on here often about synchronicity and the degrees of separation. And we certainly had a synchronicity and a degree of separation in the sense that where I met Rhonda was at my publisher's, I'll call it red carpet event. I didn't get to go to my red carpet, by the way, because of the pandemic. We had a flight bot. We were driving to the airport to go. I believe, Rhonda, when we met, you had your red carpet, like you were doing the red carpet. And our publisher, they do a training day before the red carpet. So I actually showed up for the training day because my book wasn't going to be out yet. And so we met through our mutual publisher. We actually were with the same publisher. We went to an event, met there. Talking about synchronicities as a side note, somebody who may be on a future one. But did you meet Allison Franz, who had a red carpet that day as well?
Oh, I'm not recalling her, but I met a lot of people.
Well, I think she was only there just for the red carpet part. But what's interesting is her and I were trying to connect for a while over the phone. And she said, well, I can't do it right now. I'm in Nashville at my publisher's meeting. And I said, wait a minute, who's your publisher? Turned out we were in the same hotel.
That's hilarious.
Chat. We've been trying to do a Zoom call for a month and couldn't connect. And it turned out we were in the same hotel.
Wow.
So that hotel we were in, Rhonda and I met in, and we went down to lunch. And I had got there late, so I didn't know anybody yet, and I wasn't there for the previous day. And so these guys were awesome. Rhonda and a few other people invited me over to their table because I had literally just sat down, and they were like, there's a dude probably sitting by himself because I hadn't met anybody yet and just got there. And so we got a chance to chat with the people at the table. I got to know Rhonda and just loved her story. Again, I probably would do it a disservice to talk about her book in any big scope, but I love what her book is. It's an A to Z around health and wellness, and it's probably one of the most unique approaches I've seen to an A and Z around. And so I really resonated with her book. I read it. I have it here probably on my shelf. I could probably show it later and plug it, but I have it here somewhere in the office. And then we started talking about her book and what she teaches. And then she also works with people and goes into to help people that on the health and wellness side that are struggling. And so I got to know that she's really giving back in such a big way. And so Rhonda, that's how we met at the publisher's office, and then we chatted since via Zoom, of course. And so Rhonda, can you tell us on your side a little bit more about yourself, or maybe dive in further to some of those areas so that people get a feel for who you are?
Sure. I've been in the health and wellness field for 36 years, and it's like anybody else. You evolve, you change. Some of the beliefs that you had back when you first started change and shift. I was very much into traditional medical practices, and my own health problems that came and nothing was getting resolved kind of led me into more of a holistic mindset. And I was actually told several different times that I was going to die. So I have faced death quite a few times. And that's always interesting because the last time that I faced it, it was kind of like, they've been wrong before, they're going to be wrong again. And a lot of it was mindset, and a lot of it was getting the nutrition right. A lot of it was getting the environment right, paying attention to what I was being exposed to, where my risks were, and those kinds of things. And so it has just really become my purpose to share those things with people, to get people to a place where they're going to do everything they can to stay healthy. And it's fun, and it's frustrating, and it's exciting all at the same time. And people are all at different phases of their journey. And so when you're getting someone that's not quite there yet, I can recognize that because I was there. It took me a while to get to the point where I trusted in naturopathic ways to heal. And yet that is what has made the whole difference in my life.
Amazing. And, it's the holistic side of things. It's interesting how we talked yesterday about how some people are still just coming on board to believe there is even such a thing as holistic health and anything outside of the medical approach to health. And so I feel like we're going in the right direction now. I know we talked yesterday, maybe it's just that we're seeing more of it, and that's the $1 million question. But I'm going to choose, I think it's all our own perspective. I'm going to choose to believe more of us are waking up. And I don't mean like the woke or consciousness we talked yesterday, but I mean just
Juju's not here to hear that.
Exactly. But I just mean, I think more people are learning. And like we said, it's meet people where they're at. Well, I feel like more people are at the place now where they see that holistic health is the thing and can be
more available, Corey, right, Rhonda? I mean, look, we're in this global plot twist, and it's so virtual right now. So the information's available. It's really hard to be aware of something if you're not aware of it. And right. Now I think there's more awareness. So there's more opportunity for individuals like Rhonda, you, Corey, and myself to get these ingredients that we can apply in our own lives to be whole, WHOLE, right? I see that as holistic, recognizing Absolutely. That we actually run our show.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, Ilyse, in the sense that we like to talk about how technology sometimes can have its headaches and hiccups that come with it, and sometimes maybe we're too often. And again, these are all comments that are Juju wouldn't like because they're judgments, but I just mean, we like to look at this and say, well, it's easy to get caught up in the idea of what's technology doing to us? Is it hurting us? But the one thing we sometimes forget when we say that is we would never be able to do this 15 years ago in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the idea of three of us coming together from different parts of, in this case, different parts of North America, come together, be on something that's actually high quality, and have a conversation about holistic health, or whether it's spirituality, but stuff that years ago, 100 and some years ago, you'd be burned for talking about. I don't mean to be that blunt about it, but in Salem, we wouldn't be able to talk about this on here. And so it's amazing what technology has allowed us to do in that way. Like, to your point, Ilyse, it's more available. We can talk about this, have an open conversation about this, and nobody's blocking us from talking about this.
Right.
So, Rhonda, I have a question for you. So
yes.
We're kind of not scripted. So when you recognized, this holistic approach, was there something within you that shifted? Did you recognize, start trusting your gut more, trusting your intuition more to help sort of propel that journey?
No.
Okay.
It was not that at all. It was more that I had hit rock bottom, and I was so tired of being sick. And so I had spent about 7 years so incredibly sick with lupus, and I was in and out of the hospital constantly. And I had a friend who was asking me to go see a naturopathic doctor. And at the time, I'm like, no, that's of Satan. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to your voodoo doctor. I mean, I was that dead set against it. And after being admitted to the hospital because I could not move my legs, and them not being able to figure out what was wrong with me, I called her up and said, I'm ready to see your friend. So it was literally, it took being paralyzed from the waist down and not being able to figure out what was wrong. So I went in to see her, her naturopathic doctor, and I was so rude. I walked in, I called her a voodoo doctor. She gave me some papers to fill out, and I looked at her and said, I'm not filling out your papers. If you're so smart, you tell me what's wrong with me. And she said, sit down.
Girl. A little sass too,
yeah,
huh?
She was sassy right back, though. It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. So I sat down. She nailed everything, including the fact that I was not sleeping. So I left there with about $500 worth of supplements. I mean, this was back in the 90s. This was a lot of money. And in 2 weeks, I was feeling better. In 4 weeks, I was completely off of all medications. And since then, which has been over 20 years now, I've had 2 flare-ups that were stress-related, but they were minor. And so I became a believer, but it stair-stepped. It was like at that point, I was working with nutrition. I was personal trainer, working with people with their nutrition, but I was more following, the governmental guidelines for nutrition. And so then I got cancer. And I had been a vegetarian for 3 years prior to that and was eating copious amounts of soy. Well, it turns out that I'm missing a very important enzyme that allows my body to break down and get rid of estrogen. So all of that soy consumption worked against me. And so at that point, I had gone to see, because I was young at the time, they wanted to do a double non-skin sparing mastectomy. They wanted to do the radiation and the chemo. So I did my research. I chose not to do the mastectomy. That looked like pure mutilation. I chose not to do the radiation because I sought the opinions of 2 other doctors who had told me that because of the lupus, it was going to cause the breast tissue to get very hard and dark, and it was going to be very painful the rest of my life. So I said, no, thank you. I chose to do the chemo because I had so many family and friends that were terrified that if I didn't do it, I would die. So I started the chemo. After 3 treatments, I was sure that if I did another one, it was going to kill me. I felt I was so incredibly sick. And so I quit the chemo and devoted 2 hours a day for 7 years to researching everything I could get my hands on about holistic health. I was studying quantum physics. I was studying nutrition and environmental toxins and mindfulness and meditation, everything I could get my hands on. I did that 2 hours a day for 7 years. So the book is kind of what I learned from that. That's sort of the book is from all of that
I
research.
know. Seems like a lot of information. 7 hours a day. I'm not really good at math, but I can't even imagine how many hours of information are in your book.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's a lot, but yeah. So I came to holistic health, dragging my feet, kicking and screaming, not believing in it until I saw how it changed my life and how it saved my life.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, hitting rock bottom is like, okay, we're just starting from a clean canvas right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way is up.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I have to say that, first of all, her book, Ilyse, you need to check it out.
What is the name of your book?
It's called Healthy Living from A to Z,
Oh,
the guide to finding who you really are and feeding who you were created to be.
Oh, I love that. So that's something that you can add in the comments as well, right? After our time together.
Sure.
Yeah. Perfect.
And the A to Z part is a real A to Z, because we see books that just say A to Z, meaning like from start to finish. But her book actually has every letter all the way through the book. And in that section, it talks about something related to that letter. So I think that's so cool. One of the things I want to touch on this, and I at least sort of has learned this, I think, during our virtual events and just from knowing me. But I am the same as you, Rhonda, so I totally get it. I came in kicking and screaming. I'm still a skeptic to some degree. And I think it's important, like, I'll say, I won't go into too much detail because it's not fair. It's a conversation that didn't happen publicly. But somebody said to me, I think that's why you're the perfect person to work on a project that I'm working on that's related to consciousness, because he said, because you're a skeptic, because you're coming in saying, well, I don't know if I would have believed this, so let's explain it in a way that somebody that's a skeptic can actually buy in. So I always talk about like energy, how when a dog is growling at that one person, there's a reason. Mm-hmm. And people can understand that, oh yeah, why is that dog always growling at Bill only?
Right.
And so they say there has to be something. The dog's not just randomly hates Bill. And so I think that I came in kicking and screaming too because I didn't understand it. So I always try to explain it in ways that are a little bit more chewable. So I get it, Rhonda. And I'm glad that I think it's more important that you're that person, because when you're a skeptic, you can speak for other skeptics and say why. But then at the same time, you can explain it in a way that other skeptics could understand.
Yes.
Because I the whole voodoo thing, I went to this person who did Reiki on me, and I believed in Reiki at the time. By then, I had already been through treatments. I had a lot of success. Like you, actually, how I discovered all this stuff was I was having balance problems, and if I had my eyes open, I would do this, just with my eyes open, standing still. And the medical system, there was no answer. So somebody said, why don't you try yoga? I'm like, yoga? I'd only heard about it a couple times. I'm like, what is that? Like, what do I have to wear to yoga? Anyway, and so I went to yoga, and it felt like it was a little better. So I kept going back week after week. And after about 2 months, I could do tree pose. For those that know yoga poses, I could do tree pose with my eyes closed without swaying.
Nice.
Earlier doing this. And I was sold. I was like, this, there's something to this. But why I brought up the Reiki is I was getting Reiki by a girl one time. And Ilyse and I have talked about this, and I think I shared the story about Louise Hay and talking about Heal Your Life and how each thing relates to something else. And the girl said to me, there's no pain in the world that's not related to something going on in your life. And I said, so you're telling me if I hit myself in the face with a hammer, the pain's not real? And so that's how skeptic I was. I'm like, yeah, it might be that I feel it more because I have something going on in my backstory. But my point to her was, you can't just say if I cut off my finger that there's not going to be pain simply because I have a perfect backstory. So what I'm getting at is I came into it as a skeptic like that, and so I get it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that because I think it's important for those that are listening that may not be as far along in the journey as us. And as you said, at least meet them where they're at. I think sometimes meeting them where they're at means I understand you're a skeptic.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I have another question for you, Rhonda. So you've had this journey and you've been on this journey for how long? Longer than 7 years.
Yes, this journey really started for me in 1986 after a car accident.
Okay, I knew. See, so I work on how the body actually speaks to us and gives us these hidden messages that maybe we don't recognize. So and what age were you when you had that car accident then?
21.
Okay, so this journey has been from 21 on. Yes. And so you had this car accident and then the lupus sort of showed up after that, or what?
It did. The car accident, I actually was almost decapitated from the inside. So my head literally sits off of my spine. And then in 1991, I got pregnant, and that's when the actual lupus came. And so it just kind of went down from hill. But I feel like it all began with that misalignment in my neck, which is one of the reasons that I'm in chiropractic school now, because I really believe that a lot of my problems started because of the misalignment that happened in my spine. And the funny thing was, I was in school, exercise phys major, rehabilitation focused. You know, we were told chiropractic was quackery. And so at the time, I would have never gone to a chiropractor anyway to fix my neck. But here I am years later, a couple of years ago, started having some very serious neurological problems. The doctors couldn't figure out what it was. They kept saying, well, you know, you're in a process of developing a neurological disease. And I just I couldn't receive that. And I went to my doctor, or my dentist. My dentist just happened to say, how's the rest of your health? So I told him what was going on. And he said, I think that's your upper cervical. You need to see an upper cervical chiropractor. And so I made an appointment. You know, within a couple of weeks, she had me all fixed up. So, you know, it's like, it's just one thing after another. It's like, unfortunately, it seems like I have to experience it firsthand before I really get it and before I receive it. And so hopefully I'm getting close to the end of that part of the journey to where I can just
well, we
rely
can
on
put your script on that and say that I'm open and ready to receive the information without the drama attached. Right?
Absolutely.
Plant that mind seed for you. I'll text it to you later. I'm ready to receive whatever information I need to know without the pain and without the drama.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right. Wow.
I was going to ask as well, Rhonda, you know, do you find that in talking about this and how you came into it kind of as a skeptic, do you find that, and we talked about this yesterday too, that it'd be great if everybody could sort of work together? So what I mean by that is, you just mentioned about the chiropractic thing, and Kyle talked about this yesterday.
Talk about playing in the sandbox together.
Yeah, like Kyle was saying how like, some people, doctors that he works with, say same thing. Chiropractic is quack, you know, and stuff like that. And even he's a PhD, and he said some MDs look down at him because he's a PhD. And he was commenting that how great would it be if we were all working together in the same fight? And do you feel that's a challenge right now, and something that you know, you'd like to see changed, is that we can all work together a little bit more? Yes,
I definitely think that that's a challenge. And I know that going into chiropractic, I'm setting myself up for even more of that instead of less of it. But I'm hoping to see change, because it's, you know, the proof is there. I mean, you cannot argue with the results. And so really the medical professionals that I want to work with are typically more of the functional medicine doctors who do understand it and who are reaching out and trying to have a little bit more of a holistic approach.
Well, you know, I'm just going to quickly interject, because I like to make things lighter. You know, the whole flip your script, it's not that easy to flip your script, but flipping your script matters, right? So, but it's, if we looked at it like ingredients, right? And we are the signature dish. So if we could take the ingredients like chiropractic and acupuncture, right, and EFT and brain tapping and all of these things, and have this, because you can't make a cake without flour and eggs and baking soda or baking powder, and you know, so to be a well-being takes so many different things and at different times. And exactly. So if we came at it with that perspective, then it wouldn't be mine. It would be like, together we could create something amazing. Yes.
That is, that's kind of what the book goes through. And it's also what my business is. It's just creating a holistic area where we do the nutritional health coaching component. We do the exercise and movement component. We do the energy work, both outside and inside component. And now with me going to chiropractic school, we'll be doing the functional neurology component. So it's really creating something that is very holistic, so that anyone coming in, we can address all of those needs through a holistic perspective.
That's perfect. I work in tandem with chiropractors all the time, because you can have a physical alignment, but to have an emotional and mental alignment alongside of it is like, it's a beautiful match.
That's right.
So how do you work with individuals, and where do they find you? Are you a coach, one-on-one? Do you have online programs?
All of the above. So it's www.rhondahuff.com. And we do have a physical brick and mortar here that did fine through COVID. We're back working, still not full time because there can only be a certain number in there at a time. But we work with the emotional components. We work with the nutritional component. We work with the physical component. We work with the cognitive component of health. So when someone comes in for an assessment, we hit all of those areas. So if they're working through a pain process, then we're looking at what can we do to alleviate that pain. Frequency specific microcurrent we use Reiki, we use mindfulness meditation, we use yoga, we use corrective work, we use medical exercise, we use nutritional interventions. So we take the whole thing and bring it into wherever they're using it. I also am an NLP practitioner and hypnosis practitioner, which is one of the things we're going to kind of do today if we get time. But we do all of that so that when they leave our studio, we want them to feel holistically supported in every area of their life. We want them looking at relationships. We want them looking at career. We want them looking at their nutrition. We want them looking at their movement. We want them to look at every single aspect of what it takes to be a healthy individual. And then we help them develop a plan to accomplish that.
That's perfect. What is the name of your brick and mortar? I know that I've lived in your neck of the woods. It'd be funny if we actually kind of knew each other or worked in an area around.
Right. Well, it was Body and Balance Wellness and Fitness Studio for a long time. And then when I wrote the book, the marketing team at Morgan James wanted me to change the name to my name. So it's Rhonda Huff Fit, FIT, which stands for Functional Integrative Training.
Oh, I love that. We'll have to chat a little bit more. But if you have some interactive hands-on techniques that you can share with us, I know you mentioned something like that. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm all in. If you want to take that away right now, you can.
Okay, all right.
We have about 10 minutes left, so does that give you enough time?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Okay, so what I would like to do is just invite everyone to step into some visualization. So if you can just close your eyes. Get into a very relaxed state. And I want you to visualize yourself standing in an empty room. And there's a rope attached to you. The long end of the rope is hanging to the back side of you. And then there's another rope attached to the front of you. And the long end of that rope is hanging in front of you. I want you to imagine that something or someone grabs the rope behind you and begins to pull. I want you to observe what your body does, how it's reacting to being pulled backwards. I want you to notice everything that you're doing. What are you thinking? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? And as you do that, the pull gets stronger and stronger to the point that you're having to actively pull against the rope just to keep from falling down. How is your body feeling? What is your mind saying to you? As you fight to stay upright and as you fight to move forward, there is something that just keeps tugging you backwards. As you continue this struggle, you may be feeling fatigued. Your body starts getting weary. Your mind starts getting tired. You just feel like you just need to sleep. Perhaps you feel guilty that you can't get loose of this rope. Perhaps you're going backwards and thinking of all the times that this rope has appeared in your life before, and yet you have failed to get free of it. And you start feeling that shame, and you start feeling that fatigue, and your memory starts getting sluggish. Things are all fogging together. You feel like your brain is full of fog, and you just can't make sense of anything. You notice that as you fight against the rope, your movements start getting slower and slower, because you're so tired. My friends, this is depression. Now I'd like for you to drop that rope But as you drop that rope, someone grabs the rope in front of you and they start pulling you. And at first, it may feel kind of cool. You're trying to keep up. This is exciting. You're going somewhere. But as the pull gets stronger and you're being pulled faster and faster, your mind starts to race. It starts to go so fast that you can't really pay attention to where you are right now. All you can think about is where you're going. And then you start worrying about, where is this rope taking me? What is on the other side of this? What if there's a cliff? What's going to happen? Why can't I slow this down? You notice that your body is getting all fidgety. You're starting to hold stress in every part of your body because you just want this momentum to slow down. You can't sleep. You can't think. Your energy is manic. You have a heightened alertness to everything that could possibly happen. All you can think about is how it might go wrong. My friends, this is anxiety. Now, I invite you to drop the rope. And you're standing in the empty room. No one's pulling on you. Your body weight starts to settle. You're distributing your weight between your 2 feet. Your shoulders are relaxing. No one's pulling you in either direction. You just are. This is peace. So I'd like for you to come back to the room and think about how that felt. And I'm in no way trying to minimize depression and anxiety, because a lot of things go into depression and anxiety. A lot of things like your genetics, your environment, your personality even, brain chemistry. All of those things have an effect. But I want you to get curious. Those times when you're feeling anxious or when you're feeling depressed, pause. And think about depression as being worried about the past and anxiety as being worried about the future. And Psychology Today defines worry as the opposite of mindfulness. So the only place that we can find peace is in the present. It's being mindful of what's happening to us right now. So when times are good, you can practice being mindful by simply paying attention. Use your senses. What am I feeling? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I tasting? What am I smelling? And the more you practice that type of mindfulness when things are good, then when those feelings of anxiety or depression pop in, it's easier to stop. And the right question is not, what am I afraid of? That's not the right question. The right question is, where's my peace? How do I find that middle ground again? Because depression and anxiety can happen to us in a single day. It can happen to us in a single hour. We can swing from one to the other. But if we can find that place of peace and come back to that, then we can give our brain the opportunity to figure out what's going on. So the way it's supposed to work is there's an outside stimulus of some sort, and the outside stimulus can be a thought, even though that's internal. That thought goes to the thalamus. The thalamus is supposed to send that thought to the sensory cortex, and it's in the sensory cortex where meaning is assigned to that. Then if the sensory cortex says, this is something to be afraid of, you need to run away or you need to be angry, then it gets sent to the amygdala and we act. So anytime we have fear or anger, that can be a cue to us that our amygdala has been activated and we don't want it to be activated. And you've got one on each side of the hemisphere, so they're amygdalae. So when you get that feeling of fear and anger, and if you think about it, if fear and anger is what's really processed in the amygdala, then every single emotion that we have, the very root of it can almost always be traced back to one or the other, fear or anger. So if we have time to stop and to pause and find that peace, then the sensory cortex is allowed to assign meaning to that, and we're not in that fight or flight all the time. I love what Carl Jung says. You know, he who looks outside dreams, but he who looks within awakens. And dreams are not always sweet, right? Nightmares are dreams. So if we're constantly looking at what's happening around us without finding that center and finding that peace, we're going to constantly be pulled by the rope. And both of those situations can lead us down a very deep road of despair. So finding the peace, bringing yourself back to center is the way to help get curious about why you're struggling with depression, why you're struggling with anxiety. And like I said, it's not the full answer, but get curious about your emotions. And sometimes we have to go all the way back to our belief system, because what we see is our beliefs determine our thoughts determine our emotions, and our emotions determine our actions. Well, the emotional part of that is the amygdala. So we've got to keep backing it up. And we can change our thoughts all day long, but we're going to have to keep changing our thoughts all day long. If we change our beliefs, then our thoughts will take care of themselves.
Beautiful. I feel calmer already, Rhonda.
Good.
And I love what you said. I have a little bit of a flip on the perspective that a chronic thought that we think over and over and over again becomes a belief. So it's kind of which came first, the belief or the thought, and how can we have them work together? But
Absolutely.
It's the thoughts and the beliefs are at the root of everything. When you started to believe, because of your experience, that this process was working for you, I promise you that belief was seeded and rooted and propelled the healing process for you.
Absolutely.
When we fight desire with lack of belief, it's like this pit. So I thank you so much. I love the visualization. I'm always like, I don't think I can visualize, but somehow you got me there, and I could feel being pulled forward and backward. I don't know. How about you, Corey?
I'm just mellow right now. I'm interested to see how my interview with Ilyse goes, because I'm just like,
we'll interview each other, I'm sure. It's a great lead-in, because the emotional piece is a huge piece that I see, especially from childhood. We have these beliefs, and the way that we're taught and what we think of ourselves internally plays a huge role.
Absolutely, it does.
A
lot of trauma, when I'm dealing with people with NLP, a lot of it goes back to childhood. We do so many change history things with childhood, because you can get the brain to respond differently. Like, you can't truly change history, but you can certainly change the way the brain responds to that.
Exactly. Reframing it, having the memory without being the emotional star of that show that's really not playing anymore.
Yeah. I mean, being able to take, because as children, we don't have the resources. So being able to take someone back to childhood with the resources that they now have and as adult is huge, and makes a huge impact on the way that the brain processes things.
Absolutely. I just was working with a client this morning. Awesome dude, great dad, just awesome. And he's struggling with this anxiety and procrastination. And I see them all as like side effects of. And we had a conversation, and his 7 and 8-year-old, that little boy within him, was always questioned by his stepfather. And he was scared to speak because his stepfather was a Mensa. Brilliant. And every time he tried to articulate how he was feeling, he was always put down and made to reframe it and say it differently. And he has anxiety as an adult. He believes he's having anxiety as an adult now when he tries to have a conversation or come into maybe a debate or a conflicting conversation. And what we were able to do with EFT is get down to that amygdala where the fear pops up and say, hey, wait a second, that younger version of you is right here with you and has an opportunity to speak now. Like, everything shifted. And now that little boy has a voice in this incredible young man who is fathering his children. And I said, well, now you get to take this younger version of you and father him as well, and you can have a voice together. So, and he had no idea that this is where the anxiety, he's like, I stutter, I can't even speak. I said, but how old are you when you feel that way? And he knew, 7 or 8. So reframe, I love it. I'm just like, oh, yay. It's like really for me, I'm like, look at another one who's just understood something just a little bit differently.
That's right. And it's amazing how many times I have done a hypnosis session with someone and asked their subconscious to bring forth the memories of where these things are coming from. And until the hypnosis session, they had no recollection of that ever happening, because the subconscious will keep it hidden until you're ready to deal with it.
Yes, I call it the subconscious hard drive, because we can all relate to the computer. We don't really give our hard drive enough credit until it's full or buffering, and we can't start uploading the I am okay and I am safe. There's no room for that until we get those old files out and create new space for it. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I love what you do. I'm so glad that you're in the sandbox with all of us.
It's so fun. I love being with you guys.
I know, and sharing all these ingredients. So if somebody wants to, do you work one-on-one, or do you have a team that people come?
I work one-on-one, but at our brick and mortar, we have a team.
Okay, so they can find you at Rhonda Huff.
RhondaHuff.com.
Not fit, just Rhonda Huff.
Yeah, just RhondaHuff.com.
Okay. And then I always like to ask our guests I call them mind seeds. We have thought weeds, we have belief weeds, and these are the things that keep us stuck. But mind seeds are these seeds that we want to plant in this fertile, beautiful mind of ours that we can have grow, help us grow this life we love. If you were to leave a mind seed for our viewers and our guests, what would one seed that we could plant in our life starting today, in our fertile mind today, what mind seed would you leave us with? It could be personal. I mean, just a little seed.
Right. I think that probably based on just what we're covering today, I think the mind seed would be to not forget to be mindful. We get so hurried that I think we lose that. And so whenever you're feeling anxious or depressed, stop and pause. So the mind seed would be to pause.
Pause.
I
like that.
Find your peace. One of my employees said that to me, I don't know, probably 3 years ago. I was upset about something, and he comes from a background of a project manager for a big company. And he looked at me and he said, pause. And it was just, I was like, right away, everything relaxed. And so I think I would just pass on what Mike said to me is pause, and then find your peace.
Pause and find your peace. I love it. I'm going to share that in the comments as your mind seed. Pause and find your peace.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Corey?
Yeah. So Rhonda, as we bring things to a close, I mentioned your book a couple times, and I keep taking a peek over because I'm trying to see if I can spot it. Just curious, do you happen to have it near you?
It's in the next room. Do you want me to run get it?
Well, I want people to see the cover so they could get a feel.
Okay, hold on.
It's so funny. She's in like the area that I lived in for like 15 years. My sister's there. It's so funny to like know where she's from. Just like with Dee French, she was in New York. There she is.
Yeah, so there's the book. I just want people to see it so that they go onto Amazon to grab a copy, or the website. They'll know what it looks like.
I'm definitely going to grab a copy. I love it. I have Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life as part of my, repertoire. And I believe that would be a great resource for my clients as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. This has been so fun. I love listening to both of you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rhonda.
Thanks.
and yeah, so if you've watched this, and I can't see how you wouldn't have taken something amazing from what Rhonda shared, go check out the book. Like I said, I loved the book, and I'm an avid reader, but this is the honest truth, and I feel bad saying this. I'm an avid reader, but I don't recommend many books. And it takes a lot for me to say you need to check out this book. And I can honestly say that this book, when I read it, I jumped to certain letters. Like I told you this, Rhonda, certain letters resonated with me in the book that just maybe 10 things that I'd never heard said that way before in one book. And that's big whenever I've done 6,000 interviews probably 4,000 talks with other speakers on the bill, and read I don't know how many books, but anyway, thousands. And I can't say often that there's 10 new things I learned in this book. So I just want to say, grab the book, check it out. You won't regret it. Check out Rhonda. I put the website in the comments, but rhondahuff.com. Rhonda, thank you so much. I know it's a to be continued because you have lots more stuff coming up around Blue Talks and also around the great work you're doing. So thank you so much for joining us. I honor you and support you and salute you.
Thank you. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
I love you too, now that I met you. And I'm going to reach out to you so we can chat a little. I'd love to get to know you better.
Yes, when you come to visit your sister, you need to let me know.
I definitely will, but we'll do some virtual stuff before then.
Sounds great.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, y'all too.
Thanks so much, Rhonda. We'll send you to the backstage area, and then I will jump into interviewing Ilyse. But Rhonda, stay tuned. We'll be in touch in the near future.
Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, wow.
Like her. I like all of them. But yeah, how great is that? I'm so curious because I'm from, lived in Virginia Beach, and that's really where I started my career and started studying, to become an EFT practitioner and do the work that I do after my own personal, I don't want to date myself, but many years of a healing journey, starting at 18. Let's just put it that way. And I'm a little over 39.
Oh, I thought you were meaning last week. You said just over 18?
No, when I was 18,
yeah,
my whole healing. Oh, right. Listen, at least let me be 21.
Okay, fair enough. Well, in Canada, we can go into certain bars in certain areas at 18.
Well, I went to RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, and we hung out in your neck of the woods because the drinking age was 18.
100%. So yeah, so I'll let you be 21, but yeah, forever 21.
Yeah.
So sorry. Yeah. So I didn't mean to interject, but yeah, continue. You were saying about.
No, I don't even remember.
All right, it's gone.
Hey, that's being 21.
Great, 21, things fly.
To where we're talking about Rhonda and being in that area, and so started my career as an intentional thought coach and an intentional creator, and helping my clients really recognize that their power lies within themselves, no matter what's going on. It doesn't matter if it's, your profession and your business that you think that you need to reach a certain goal, or the love of your life, or the weight, or the money, or the house. This is about being an intentional creator without exception. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if you're in chronic pain, emotional or physical. The symptoms to me are just symptoms of being out of alignment. Like a chiropractor would say, you're out of alignment. But being out of emotional and mental and really just being out of alignment with who you really are. But I work with a chiropractor. Still to this day, we refer each other in Virginia Beach. So I was kind of in the circuit. I worked at ARE. I would come in and speak and work with groups at the ARE, which is Edgar Cayce's institute. Are you familiar with ARE?
I'm not actually.
So are you familiar with Edgar Cayce?
No, I'd be lying to say I am.
He was a medical medium, I guess you could call it, but in his sleep, he would get downloads. And this was before phones or anything. He would send letters. It would take weeks for him, but he would know how to put together the exact protocol for what anyone was going through when they were dealing with physical, health issues. And so they have the Edgar Cayce Center. There's one in the ARE. The first ARE is in Virginia Beach. And the reason he started the ARE in Virginia Beach is because he believed that the sand was healing sand. He believed that that was a vortex of energy in that space for healing. So there's a lot more detail to the ARE, and we can put a link to the ARE in there. And they're all over the country, really, these institutes. But Edgar Cayce, I'm sure a lot of you know who Edgar Cayce is, but he was fascinating. And he was really, he was one of these leaders. And medical intuitives we have now, we were just talking about with Juju. She's a medical intuitive. We were talking with, I'm trying to remember Lisa's last name. She was our first guest on day one.
Wilson?
Yes. And she talked about going to a medical medium because she was having a lot of health issues. And that was it. This medium was able to help her understand what was going on. So he was a medical, that's what he was known for. But you can still get Cayce remedies. If you have lupus, you could put lupus in and look for a Cayce remedy and it will come up. And it's eating apples with olive oil and, different kind of resting during different times of the day. So pretty fascinating. But anyway, so I was one of the practitioners, EFT practitioners there at the Cayce Center as well.
Yep.
So it's just interesting that she's in that area right now.
Yeah, well, I just looked up Edgar Cayce, and he actually died in Virginia Beach, which you probably knew.
He lived on the other side of the lake where I lived on Lake Holly. Like, I could see his house from my deck when I lived in Virginia Beach.
Wow. Well, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's interesting because when I just basically quickly looked up his name. The spelling was way different than I thought, but I found him, and it said
Cayce.
Yeah, absolutely. And it says, this is the part that I find interesting that we see all the time, and is part of maybe the challenge with people in the New Age or spiritual movement, is that it says who claimed. So like it was an American clairvoyant who claimed to channel a source. That has source like in brackets, and it made me think of like Think and Grow Rich. For whatever reason, people are like Napoleon Hill, who claimed to interview Andrew Carnegie. Like, why do we have to question? Like, I don't understand the benefit of, like, in Wikipedia saying claim, but you wouldn't say a doctor claimed that he found a cancerous lump. You wouldn't say claimed. So, I mean,
there's something physical and tangible, but feeling well and healing, that's tangible for the person that's healed.
That's my point. Like, if a doctor said, I talked to this patient for an hour, and basically all of a sudden the ailments they're having were gone just because we talked it through. Because it's a medical doctor, they wouldn't say claimed to help this person emotionally. But I just find it funny where we say clairvoyance. It's like, what's his name? Nettles. I can't think of his first name. But anyway, he wrote the Science of Getting Rich. And same thing in his book. When I read about him after, people said he claimed to work with this person, claimed to know this person. Anyway, I think that's part of the issue is whenever.
I could get into a whole thing about that, and maybe we'll touch on it in the talk. But let me just share a little bit about what I do with our viewers. For those that don't know me, I know you know me as the founder of Flip Your Script Coaching and the co-host or the host of Flip Your Script Fridays. But there's a reason behind why I'm here, and it started back when I was 18. And, I was thinking about this today. The story that I tell is the story of how I was paralyzed with an autoimmune disease at 18, and that's how everything started. But the honest truth is, because who we were talking about this with Juju or somebody yesterday or during the week, about being vulnerable, right? And really talking about it. And honestly, I believe that every physical manifestation has an emotional counterpart, right? And because we're all connected. We talked about brain tapping. We talked about the brain mind guy. We talk about thoughts and emotions and feelings, right? This is all at the root of who we are as beings, whether we're well beings, whether we're depressed beings, whether we're anxious beings, whether we're happy beings. At the root of all of this is what we believe and how we think. So I'm going to actually go back even farther to my childhood, which I never talk about, Corey. So this is like brand new. When I was 7, which we talked about was it Patrick Porter, from conception to about 7 or 8, is when our subconscious is wide open and we really start learning how to love and how to trust and how to recognize our own value. Right? And recognize, and we talked about this the other day too with you, Corey, about you can do it. Your grandfather told you that you're already a rock star. So put your attention towards something else and you can come back to being the rock star, even though you really weren't yet, physically, you were the rock star in his eyes. So the seeds that we plant, and so trust for me was a big one. My parents, at the age of 7, separated, but the story is before that. I remember standing on the counter in front of the kitchen sink in my house in Long Island, and we were shucking clams. My dad and I, we were big clammers. We'd go out. Have you ever gone clamming? It's so much fun. You go and you have a little inner tube and the bushel, and with your toes you can go in the ground and in the sand, and you get these clams. I live in Long Island, and that was a big thing we did. And I remember it so clearly. He was teaching me how to shuck clams. Well, my parents were fighting, and I recognized it. So you parents out there, if you think your kids aren't paying attention, they are. Okay, so that's a nugget right there. Somebody's always listening, right? And especially your children, and you're making an impact on them one way or another. So I remember asking my dad, are you and mom going to get divorced? And he said, no. Nope. And he promised me that wasn't going to happen. And I trusted him. I knew that they were having a hard time, but my dad said they weren't going to get divorced. So I believe they weren't. So not even 2 weeks later, my sister and my mom and I went to Connecticut to visit my grandparents. And when we came back from the weekend, my dad was gone. He left us notes. Obviously, he didn't, my parents knew it was a plan. So my dad didn't have to leave while we were there. You know, I find, as an adult, but as a child, my dad just 2 weeks before said they weren't going to get divorced or separated. And he left us notes. I can almost feel it still. And we saw him the next day. So, and we had a great relationship with my dad, and they actually tried to, make amends and came together, and we went on trips together after that. But that moment was a game-changing moment for me in relationship to trust, right? And to trust a man, not that I've had, big issues with men, but just in general, and trusting myself, because that trust is translated into who we are, right? And so, we saw our dad, and he, let us know that he loved us. We lived with our dad for a few years, so, there was no animosity in the separation and the eventual divorce. But for me, I remember just having such a hard time, like everything that I thought I knew and I thought I could trust was no longer the same. And that's what I would call a game-changing moment. And that's, I believe, and I probably even have some stuff even before that, but that's what I remember as being a moment of change for me. And I believe why I'm so passionate in helping people recognize that their inner child is playing a larger role in who they are than they may recognize. So fast forward at 18, I become, I don't even know, whether you come down with an autoimmune disease, but I contracted Guillain-Barré or Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is an autoimmune disease, and your immune system sort of fights itself in your peripheral nerves. You shut down and you become slowly paralyzed, which is very scary. Now, I'm not sure how these two tie in yet, because like I said, I just had this aha moment that I'm going to go further back in childhood. But I will tell you this. This was a profound moment in my passion and my drive to help people recognize their internal power to heal and to be intentional creators in their own life, is that I was told that it could take 2 years before I might walk again. Okay, so let's just be clear on the might walk again, as opposed to in 2 years you will walk again. And I'm lying there paralyzed now, physically and emotionally paralyzed. At 18, like 3 days ago or 4 days ago, I was dancing my butt off at a Grateful Dead show. And then all of a sudden, major game-changing moment and life-changing moment. I don't know if it was a download or a knowing that I knew when I was younger, that I had healing powers within me that I didn't recognize. Maybe the universe or source was giving me an opportunity and saying, you know what, you really do have those powers that you thought you had. And we're going to have to give you something extreme so we can show you that what you thought you knew, that you questioned, that you didn't trust, is the truth. So I had a download or an aha moment, and I was like, wait a second. Somebody else's perspective isn't mine. What somebody else believes is going to happen to me doesn't have to be what happens to me. This is my life. They're telling me from their own experiences. So I decided to do an experiment laying there, and I didn't even know what chakras were. I had the crystals on I knew where the points were. I had the chakras. I was in my tie-dyes that I was selling at the Dead shows. They thought I was crazy in the ICU in Manhattan. Boy, they didn't know what to do with me. I had my hippie friends coming. I was paralyzed. I could still breathe. It didn't affect my respiratory system, and I could speak. But pretty much you could flip me like a pancake. But anyway, so I had somebody place the crystals, and I decided that in 3 months, I was going to walk out. I wasn't going to need physical therapy. I wasn't going to need a cane. I was just going to walk out. And 3 months, almost to the day, I walked out of the third hospital. No cane, no physical therapy. And I was like, whoa. Excuse my language, but this shit really works, right? Like I like had this new lease on life, not a lease, but a new lease on life. I was a new lease on life. And I decided in that moment that I was going to make a life for myself as opposed to make a living to support a life, because I had a huge second chance. And I was going to, it took many years before I got to where I am right now. And I, doing the work that I do, coaching individuals, speaking and sharing this information and teaching individuals how to really get to the amygdala, like Rhonda was talking about, and find out what's stored in that subconscious hard drive, what memories are driving your actions and beliefs about yourself right now. What's holding you hostage physically? Our emotions are at the root of, not the only thing, Corey, but at the root of all of our physical dis-ease, right? Physical pain. I know you talk about if you hit yourself on the head with a hammer. Well, if you hit yourself on the head with a hammer, you might have bigger issues than childhood. If you intentionally hit yourself on the head with a hammer, we might have to have a whole different discussion, right? But that's not my point. But my point is that, I realized that I wasn't special. And if I was special, then we're all special. So if I can do it, so can others. Now, it took me more than just walking out of the hospital. So I had anxiety and fear that I would get sick again. I mean, there was a whole, process and journey to get where I am now. However, on that journey, I found EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. I had tried a lot. I went to yoga training. I was a yoga instructor. I went through therapy for years, talking about what I didn't want and still getting more of it. You put your focus on something, you get more of what you focus on. And I kept getting more of what I was focusing on. Loved my therapist, but it took way too long to really not get very far for me. Mm-hmm. And somebody mentioned this EFT to me, and it's not the only thing I do, but it's part of the process. It's my release process. I have a recognize where some of these beliefs come from, right? We have to recognize first where things come from to have an understanding. And then I use EFT as the release process because, well, it's like acupuncture and psychology together. So it's like giving your emotional guidance system an adjustment, getting realigned to who you are now so you can stand in your beliefs. You can stand in your confidence. You can stand in your knowing, and you can stand in the power of your own intention. So somebody said, well, you can tap here and you can tap here. And I went, that's some cray stuff right there. And I know you don't think I'm a skeptic because I never talk about this. And that's why I'm bringing it up now, because it just seems like I am so connected. Well, I was connected, but not always so connected. And I had this hip pain that would not go away. And I was in my yoga training, 200-hour teacher training to become a yoga instructor. I was eating right. I was juicing. I was doing all of these things, but I couldn't seem to. I had my chiropractor friends. They were adjusting me. Nothing seemed to work. And I decided to look into this tapping or EFT thing again. And I was taking my dogs for a walk to the beach. And I just went through, and I had been doing some of it, learning a little bit more, and I decided I was just going to go for it. And when I started tapping and going through this rant, I call it a tapping rant, I just ranted, I realized something so profound, and I'm going to share this with you all because this is a big piece to healing and coming into your own and recognizing that you matter. Because at the root of fear and anger, a lot of us have self-doubt. Self-doubt. Am I enough? Can I do this? Not recognizing one's value. When I forgave myself for expecting someone else to recognize my value and my worth and to support myself the way I wasn't doing it for myself. I wasn't doing what I was expecting someone else to do. And when I had that aha moment, I expected my mom to recognize my value, and this one to recognize my value, and this one to tell me how great I was, and all of this stuff. But what I recognized is I wasn't even doing it myself. And I was expecting somebody else to notice it. How many of you are expecting somebody else to recognize your value, your worth, your importance, your brilliance, and you're not even recognizing it yourself? I can tell you that that is at the root of a lot of misalignment and feeling at dis-ease, right? Yes, nutrition plays a role. Absolutely. Exercise plays a role. But we tend to, I don't know, not negate, but sort of, whatever, I'm just a little stressed. Oh, it doesn't matter what I think. Well, it does. It absolutely does. So fast forward, I decided about 7 years ago that I would go through intense training to be an EFT practitioner. I was going to teach people how to recognize where some of this is coming from, how to release and how to restore who they are, the version of them that's struggling, that doesn't recognize their value and feel enough. I started with autoimmune diseases and pain, because pain's great with EFT. If you're in pain and we do some rounds and we get to the root of something, the pain levels go down. So that's like something easy to recognize. But you know what I find with my clients, Corey? It really doesn't matter what the symptom is. It doesn't matter if it's a marriage that's falling apart, or having challenges with a child who just won't listen or is having a hard time themselves, or your weight, or chronic pain for years, or emotional pain, or not feeling like you're enough, or having challenges in your business. To me, those are side effects of not recognizing your value and being out of alignment with who you are, who you truly know you are, and you're not even honoring yourself, but you're waiting for somebody else to do it. Okay. Corey's like, are you with me?
I'm taking it in, and I would totally agree, because it took a long time in my life to truly value myself and realize that I mattered. And it's so true that when I didn't recognize that value, that's when I was battling hypochondria and anxiety and some of the things that people don't even know I was afflicted with or dealt with back then. But I can see the difference from when I didn't have my value or self-worth and when I did. And it sounds strange. Maybe it doesn't to some, it will to some. But when I found it was when I started performing stand-up comedy, and it actually showed me, it wasn't comedy, but it showed me the door to my passion/purpose, which was speaking to create a positive ripple in people's lives. So I started speaking at that time, and my anxiety and hypochondria all but disappeared. But I also recognized that that was the same time I found what I was called to do, which really to me was my value and my self-worth. Like it all happened at once. And the difference between me before that and me after that is almost unrecognizable. And the interesting part is most people know me from after that are in my world today, so they don't even know that world existed. But anyway, I just want to validate what you're saying, that I didn't have that value either.
Right. So, and what does it mean to be an intentional creator in your own life, right? I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean to be an intentional creator? Do you know?
Well,
like, what would you think? What do you think that means?
For me, I mean, because it probably means different things to different people.
Absolutely. It's all about you, Corey, right now. So what does it mean to you?
To be an intentional creator in my life means that, and this ties back to me knowing my mission, what I believe my mission is, but to me, it means that I'm actually not only creating the life I want, but I'm creating the vision that I want to impact other people's lives. But I'm being intentional about it. In other words, I'm not just sitting there hoping it happens. I'm actually intentional on it. That's what it means to me. I don't know what the real meaning is.
No, that is. I mean, being intentional and being a creator, we're all here to create, and I'm not talking biblical. I'm not talking religious. I'm talking like we are creators. I mean, I'm going to pose a question to the viewers, and then I'm going to give you some very simple, but simple is not always easy, steps, 3 simple steps that will help you right now move into being the creator, the intentional creator of your own life. So remind me, because we can like spin it around and then I'll forget the key elements, the key mind seeds. There are 3 mind seeds that go together. So being an intentional creator of your own life, I want you to think about something that you think about all the time or focus on all the time. Let's think about something that you focus on all the time, something that you don't really want, but you focus on all the time. And you talk about how you don't want it, right? So there's a lot of time spent talking about how to get rid of what you don't want, right? I'll ask my clients, just ask them I'm saying, so what are your goals? Like, what is the goal? And as soon as I ask what the goal is, I get told what they don't want. I said, I didn't ask you what you don't want. I asked you, what do you want? And sometimes we spend so much time focused on what we don't want, and we want to get rid of it first without knowing what we really want. And you've heard this analogy before, Corey, and I'm going to use it again because it's really simple and easy to understand. If you plant a tomato seed and you give it the attention, you cultivate, you fertilize, you give it the water, whatever it needs, you will never get a cucumber. Ever. You'll never get a cucumber because you're focused on and you've planted the seed, which will yield you tomatoes. If you spend all your time nurturing and cultivating and sowing the seeds of what you don't want, hoping that you're going to get what you do want, maybe in some freak of nature, you might, but it'll be a lot harder for it to show up, for sure, if it even shows up at all.
And it won't be an eatable tomato plant.
No.
It won't be an eatable tomato.
No, it won't be. I don't know. No, it won't be a cucumber. We're going for the cucumber.
Well, then it won't be, sorry, you'll never get a tomato plant. So it won't be an eatable cucumber then. If it comes out trying to look like a tomato, it won't be eatable anyway. So
right,
it won't be
exactly. So the negative thought habits that you have in your life, I promise you, are at the root of so much of your discontent, struggle, physical struggle, emotional struggle, chronic pain. The things that you think that you need in order to feel a certain way, I'm just going to say it, Corey. You don't need them. The only reason that we believe, or you believe, that you need to do, be, or have something is because you will finally give yourself permission to feel the way that you think that you're going to feel or want to feel when you get it. I help my clients get exactly what they want and become intentional creators for exactly what they want by getting into the space and the feeling of how they want to feel before it even shows up. And I'm not saying the showing up of it doesn't matter, but it shows up in crazy ways because you're not trying to control it. You are being who you want to be now. Because I promise, if you reach your goal and you're not in the space that you want to be in or feel the way that you want to feel, when you get there, you're going to show up there. You're going to end up there. Right? I had my client, we have some time, right? I had my client, this morning. Love this guy. He's an awesome guy. I talked about it early. Great guy, awesome. And I said, so we're hanging out, right? You're spending your valuable time with me. I'm spending my valuable time with you. What would you like? Why are you here? You know, like, what is it that you'd like to see or feel or be or, in this process? And he proceeded to tell me what he didn't want. I don't want to feel self-doubt anymore. I don't want my anxiety and my emotions to stop me from being. I said, I didn't ask you what you don't want out of this. I asked you what you do want. And he paused for a second. And he said, I don't know. I said, who would you be without the anxiety? Who would you be without the self-doubt? And he paused for a second. He said, let me write that down. He said, because I don't know. If you don't know who you're going to be or how you want to feel, it's going to be really hard to know if you got there because you might already be there. You might already be where you think you want to be, but if you're not focused on how you want to be or where you want to be, how are you going to know? Interesting way of thinking about it, right? It's like, I don't really know. I spent so much time wanting to get rid of the self-doubt, rid of the anxiety, rid of all this stuff that I don't even know what version of me I would be So he's like the fixer in the family. Like from childhood, he had to be the mediator between the mom and the stepdad. And, you know, we have these roles that we play. I said, who would you be if you're not the mediator of your family life right now? What role would you play? He's like, I don't know. So these are all questions that I pose to you, and ask yourselves, who do I want to, who would I be if I wasn't in chronic pain? My chronic pain clients, the biggest piece, the biggest challenge is that they identify with being somebody who's in chronic pain. And then they have no identity. That's the biggest thing about letting the final pieces of this emotional internal conflict between being dependent and independent, which is fibromyalgia, by the way, dependence and independence, internal conflict. So I help my clients start to think about who they want to be and how they want to feel. Focus on what you want. Focus on the cucumber. And so I help my clients reframe so they can go to a business coach and start building their practice, so they can become a speaker on a Blue Talk stage, so they can live their lives without chronic pain, so they can be in a family that they love and that they're growing and they all love each other in, so they can be in a marriage where they love themselves and aren't dependent on their spouse to make them happy, because that's impossible. Listen, if I'm in a shitty mood, I don't care how happy anyone is around me. If anything, it makes me probably feel crappier, right? But nobody can be sad enough, give up their happiness for me to be happy when I'm not happy. Nobody can be sick enough to give up their health to help me be healthy when I'm not healthy. Nobody can be poor enough for somebody who feels poor to become rich. It's not our job. It's an inside job. So I help people heal and grow and become exactly who they want to be in their personal life and their professional life from the inside out. So now I get to give you some tips, keys, codes, whatever it is, mind seeds, we'll call them mind seeds. You ready, Corey?
Yeah, I'm 100% ready. I'm going to add something in, but I'll wait until just before our guest comes out. So keep going.
Are you sure?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, I'm going to keep going because it's 3 steps. There's 3 simple steps. Simple's not always easy. Was it Dr. Patrick Porter? We had this conversation, or was it Kyle? I can't remember, Dr. Kyle, one of them. But simple's not always easy. Sometimes simple is invalidated because it seems too easy. Oh, really? I got into I did some tapping and I got clear and I got to the root of what was really, I was holding on to, and I can feel this physical release, and all of a sudden I don't have the neck pain or the chronic pain that I've been experiencing for 20 years. I have every single one of my clients record every single one of their sessions with me, because when I started, I took notes, and I have a 90-day program where I work with individuals who are struggling with chronic physical pain and emotional, but mostly like fibromyalgia and chronic pain. And we go through the process, and somewhere halfway in between, the pain's gone, but we're still working on the process. Just like I walked out of the hospital in 3 months, I had a lot of emotional baggage and plaque that I needed to really work through to get to where I am. And I still didn't get a get out of being human free card. I still have my moments, trust me. So I'm right there with y'all. So I'm going to share 3 steps. Okay. And this is going to help all of you. You can apply them on a daily basis. So simple's it's not that easy, but it's simple and they work. Step number 1, and we'll put this in the comments or you can write this down. Get your eyes on your own paper. And what does that mean? Get your eyes on your own heart. Get your eyes on your own thoughts. Get your eyes on yourself and see and really be in who you are in relationship to the life that you have right now. Because if you're so busy pointing your finger at what something's doing or being or you're seeing, and you don't like the way it feels, so you need that to change because you don't feel good when you look at it, I can't tell you how many times I work with parents. Oh, my kid, ADD, ADHD, all these labels, which are toxic, by the way. These are individual kids who have a spirit about them, and they just need to figure out how to be in this amazing world, or be amazing in this world. And I said, I need to talk to you first before I work with your kids. And I'll have a conversation with a parent. And I said, so what is it about your child that you need to change? Because when you look at it, you don't feel good. They're like, what? So basically you're saying you want your child to change because when you look at your child's actions and the way your child's being, you don't like how you feel. So you want that to change. So when you look at it, you can feel better. We do it a lot. It's not just with our kids. Think about it. Religion, politics, global plot twists, people with this flag or that flag or no flag or whatever flag and this mask and no mask. We point our fingers collectively all the time, and we want something to change because we don't like how we feel when we look at it. Well, tough. Eyes on your own paper. And then step number 2. When your eyes are on your own paper, then and only then will you be able to recognize where you are spending your precious, valuable energy and focus. Our energy creates. I'm not going to go into names. I'm terrible with the names in the water experiment and this experiment. There's science out there. Google it. Okay, it's not my strong suit, Corey. I can't remember authors and all that kind of stuff. I remember interactions. I remember people. I see people at their fullest potential. That's what I see. I see the grandest version of everyone that comes across my path. That's my focus. So Google the science behind it. But our energy creates. And your energy creates. So step number 2, where are you spending your valuable energy and focus? And are you getting the return on that focus and energy that you deserve? Would you invest your money in that stuff? Would you invest your money in carrying old memories and beliefs and talking about gossiping and beep, 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 beep? Would you invest your money? Would that be a good investment of money? Is it a good investment of your time and focus to continue to focus on the things that aren't working in your life? Now, I'm not saying don't be aware. There's so much to be aware of, but where are you spending your focus? And I call it the return ROF, return on focus, or ROE is the return on your energy. Okay? Step number 1, eyes on your own paper, and only then can you take step number 2. Where are you spending your precious, valuable energy and focus? What are you creating more of by paying attention to it? Is it benefiting you to be the best version of you so you can go out into the world as the best, grandest version of yourself? Step number 3, make some pretty clear choices based on step number 1 and 2. Without exception. Without exception. Usually I get comments in the audience, but I don't hear anything right now. But without exception. So you need to start making some pretty clear choices. I made some pretty clear choices, and sometimes they're hard choices. But see, when I say without exception, that's the key. Without exception is like gravity. When you jump out of a plane, you better have a parachute that works because you're going to land. Without exception means that if you're aware of the things that you've now become aware, your eyes are on your own paper, you can just focus on that step for like a month before you go into step number 2. Become aware of who you are in relationship to the world that you're creating. You're creating it. You are definitely playing a major role in the creation of what's showing up in your life. And as soon as you start taking your focus away from what you're not benefiting from and as you're not gaining, your pain will start going away. Because the environment in which your chronic pain is living in is a perfect environment. But when you change the environment where something is thriving and it's no longer the same environment in which it thrives, it can't thrive in it anymore. If you take that tomato plant and you put it in the shade and you don't give it any more water, you're not getting a tomato or a cucumber because it's going to die. And step number 3, you have to start making some clear choices. Don't worry about if you're going to hurt someone's feelings, or I don't know where I'm going to get the money to pay my rent if I have to leave my relationship, or whatever it is that seems so huge, when you recognize you can't now unknow what you know. You can't unknow what you know. If you know that where you're putting your energy, you're not getting the return on that investment. And if anything, it's sucking it and you're losing energy, you got to start making some pretty clear choices. It's not that easy. I'm here for y'all. If you want to have a chat, you'll find me. I'm always here to have a chat for sure. Ask anybody of my friends. Oh, there she goes again. She's going to get me right back into alignment, whether I ask her or not. I'm in alignment after I leave her, or at least closer than I was. So those are the 3 steps. This is how you start to flip your script and become that intentional creator of your life. And I promise you, those magical powers, like the law of gravity and the law of nature, the law of attraction is a real thing. I don't know how it works. I know how to activate it, and I know how to help you activate it. The magic behind it, I don't need to know. I don't even really know like how the energy works when I plug a toaster in, but I do know that I get toast.
And not a cucumber.
And not a cucumber.
Or a tomato.
Or a tomato. So I also, Corey, I just want to share this because it's not something I really share when we're co-hosting, is that I wrote a guide, a very simple guide, and it's called Flip Your Script, Planting Mind Seeds to Grow a Rich, Abundant Life You Love. It's free. It's a free download. It's a free guide. It's on my website at IlyseRothman.com. So you're all free to go check it out, download it. And you'll understand a little bit more. I don't even know that I got into the thought weeds and the belief weeds and mind seeds, but we have thought weeds that grow roots. And those thought weeds are those tomato plants or weeds that we don't want. So when we start pulling the weeds, when we start releasing and recognizing and pulling the weeds, we need to replant something in that space. And these are the mind seeds. These are the thoughts. They're more than thoughts. They're intentions on how you want to be. It's going to shift your focus to planting those seeds in your fertile mind that you want to have grow. If you want to feel more freedom and physical peace, then all you have to do is say, I'm ready. You don't have to know how. I am ready to feel better. I am ready to explore a new version of myself. That'll be my mind seed. I'm ready to explore a new version of myself. If you're struggling right now, I'm ready. That's all you have to. I'm ready. You don't have to know how. You just have to be ready and open and willing and apply those 3 mind seeds to start. So much for the interview. I guess I just did a little presentation.
It's all good, my friend. And wow, so powerful. What I want to do, I know our guest is waiting in the wings. So what I think I'll do is, if you're okay with that, Ilyse, I'll bring her on. And then as we close out things after her presentation, I want to maybe talk for a minute or two and explore what you just covered. Does that work okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So let's go
here. So let's bring her on.
Absolutely. So keep me honest with that.
Stay to the end, because I'm sure that I have some more mind seeds or nuggets to share with you all. So stay through the end, because there'll be some more to share when Corey and I reconvene.
Absolutely. And keep me honest on that. Make sure that when I come back, there's a couple of things I wanted to touch upon that you mentioned. Tap into or unpack, or we'll figure out the appropriate word at the time. But I'm going to bring our guest on right away. So here she is, Lori.
Hi.
Hi.
So fantastic to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so looking forward to this. And I mentioned to you offline or off air that you're a key presenter today. Now, Ilyse sort of started presenting anyway, so there's kind of 1.5 presenters today. But this is awesome, because I always love the mixture between interviews and presentations. And when you have 3 people, sometimes you have all of one and none of the other. So I'm excited to hear your presentation and excited to have you involved. And I will say that Lori has a lot of stuff coming up with Blue Talk. So just this might be the first introduction in the Blue Talks world to some people. But Lori's going to be speaking on our stages. She's going to be in the books. She's going to be on the podcast. She's now part of this virtual event. She's also going to be a part of our virtual event coming up at the closer to the end of the month. I think on the 30th, she's involved. And what's really cool is she's going to be talking about, and Ilyse, so you'll want to probably tune into this, but how to crush it in a virtual world. on virtual stages. And she's been doing this. I remember we chatted, Lori, and you were telling me how many stages you were on 1 month, and it's just like mind-boggling. So she knows what she's doing when it comes to getting on virtual stages.
Yes, I am blessed with so many amazing opportunities every single day. And I am featured on 15 to 17 virtual stages a month and in national media over 500 times a year.
Wow. And you know what? I'm so excited to hear all about you and get to know you better.
Yes, and you as well. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you both for having me today.
Absolutely.
100% our pleasure. So Lori, what I'm going to do, because I want to make sure we give you as much time as possible, is I'm going to let you take the main stage. And if you're okay, just because I feel a lot of times when you're presenting, people are going to get to know you through that anyway, and get to learn who you are. So if it's okay with you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push Ilyse and I both backstage and let you take center stage and let you take over. Does that work okay for you?
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Awesome. And then whenever we come back and join you, that'll just be kind of a cue that we're winding down a little bit. No rush, but just a little cue.
Sounds good.
Awesome stuff. So let's jump backstage, Ilyse, and probably do some sharing and commenting, and we'll let Lori take over.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lori McNeil. I am an international business coach and media strategist, and I get to get out of bed every single day and do what I love to help people completely crush their goals and change and transform their lives and their businesses and set them on a better path to success, health, and vitality every single day. So I am so honored to do what I love. I travel nonstop. In fact, my lighting is a little funny today because I am traveling and I am taking advantage of a local library in a community that I've never been before and making the best of the situation. So I apologize, my lighting's a little bit off, but I am so excited to be with you guys today and to spend the next 45 minutes or so just telling you a little bit more
about me and who I am and my mindset journey, and then dropping a little bit of mindset nuggets along the way, hopefully to help you unlock some things within your own mindset that will allow you to have aha moments that will surface, that will continue to help you in your transformational journey as well. So welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Let's take a little bit of a journey back to my childhood so we can better understand my transformational mindset journey, specifically as what we're going to be talking about today with mindset. So I grew up very, very poor. Basically 7 people living out of a 1984 conversion van. And my little sleeping quarters actually ended up behind the back fender wells of a couple of tires. And that's where I spent a chunk of my childhood, is making a cubby hole is what my family and I used to call it, was the sleeping area. And there's so many fond and amazing memories that came from that, and so many things within my childhood that became my norm, that I didn't even know that there were things that were different outside of that. I knew it wasn't normal, so to speak, or it was different to live out of a van and to travel as much as we did. But there were a lot of things that I didn't realize when I was younger that other families did to live differently. And so I have a lot of fond memories, but I have a lot of tough memories and a lot of tough things that came out of living in complete poverty. And some of those tough things, some of you may be able to identify with, some things that came out of some social relationship issues. I honestly wasn't very well liked. I wasn't very well received or respected. I was definitely viewed less than in a lot of ways. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't intelligent enough. I wasn't skilled enough, in a lot of ways, because there was a mindset in the minds of a lot of people around me at that time that poverty meant less than. Poverty meant that I wasn't capable. And so even though I didn't believe that in my heart, I began to wear that label more and more and more as the years went by. And it really began to affect the way that I thought about myself, about my capability, and about the world of possibility. And so as I grew older each year, I began to step back because I had such low self-esteem that I didn't try. You know, there would be a sport or a team or a club or a group of friends or some kind of an opportunity, and I got to the point where I didn't want to be made fun of. I didn't want to feel the rejection, the fear, you know, all of the different issues that came along with putting myself out there. And so I began to not even try, to not even put myself out there in a lot of ways, unless I really felt like it was safe or almost a guarantee that I wouldn't feel bad. And so that really, really affected how I moved forward every single day in school, in my community, you know, whatever that might look like. And it was always like, oh, I'm not smart enough, you know, or I'm not good enough, so I don't even want to try that, even though I was interested and I really, really wanted to. And so I began to really be viewed as a shy little girl growing up, because it affected my communication and how I even, spoke with people and how I interacted with people. Even in a classroom, I was always afraid to raise my hand, you know, in all kinds of ways. And it sounds so simple to say, well, just have courage. Just don't be afraid. What's there to be afraid of? Or just don't do it that way. But if you've never gone through this kind of a process, it's definitely one of those things that it's going to be harder for you to understand that it's not as easy as it sounds. And so, and that can be true for, you know, a lot of things in life, because we have the lens that we view ourselves, the world, opportunity, possibility from, based on our experiences and our internal beliefs. And so my internal beliefs and my experiences were, for the most part, pretty negative for a big part of time growing up. I had positive experiences and interactions that were kind of interwoven, but there was a big chunk of my time that was overall pretty oppressive, pretty depressing, pretty negative, because my family would go without food or opportunity or, you know, whatever it is, because we just didn't have any money and we didn't have a place to live and that kind of thing for a while. So we as a family then were kind of living in the shadows a lot. And it took me a long time to really listen to that inner voice and that desire, that deep burning desire that some of you may have read about and learned about in Think and Grow Rich through Napoleon Hill. There is a deep desire within us, within all of us. And when we learn to tap into that, and when we learn to listen to the positive voices and the positive messages and tap into that deep desire of what we want and who we are and what that still voice is telling us that might be in opposition to what everyone else around us is saying, that's when true transformation can start to take place, because then we start to take chances. We start to act on that voice, and we start to take a little bit of a risk, of a perceived risk of what could happen or what's the worst that could happen. And so I started to take a little bit of a chance, little by little. And as I gained the confidence in myself, and I began to have even small wins with friends in school, with different opportunities, you know, that might be in the community or whatever, that really helped to build my confidence to continue to try more and more and bigger opportunities. And I have kind of this joke for a long time, until I really, really learned the power of mindset many years later as an adult. For a long time, I had this kind of joke where I had so many more or less negative people, negative mindsets around me that that were telling me one thing: don't do this, don't worry about that, that's not important, don't even try. You know, all these messages, all these voices, that I began to realize that I needed to do the opposite. I needed to do the opposite, because we want so bad to trust our friends and our families and our trusted mentors and all those things. But sometimes, even though we love those people and we care about those people and we want to trust in them, sometimes their own mindset is broken. Sometimes they haven't dealt enough with their own negative messages and their own mindset and their own issues in their own life, that they mean well, but they actually are kind of taking us down this spiral with them. And even though they love us and we love them, they might not be the healthiest people in our lives. And so I realized this at a certain point as a young girl, that I didn't want to be defiant. I didn't want to be disobedient, but I began to take a little bit of a risk based on the belief that I knew about myself and the desire that I had within myself to at least find out what's on the other side of people saying no. What would happen if I made the volleyball team? What would happen if I became friends with the peers at school, all those different things. And I began to navigate that process, and it wasn't always a win, but I learned about how to do it better. And so for many, many years, I found myself in this process of really doing the opposite of what a lot of people in my life were telling me to do, and understanding that they don't mean me harm, but it's okay to be different. And it's okay to do things differently than what other people might be advising me to do. Now, the interesting thing about that is that as I grew older, I learned more about mindset and realized that with the right coaches, with the right mentors, with the right people in my life, that it was okay to learn to trust their guidance again. So I had to really flip that script in my own mind and in my own soul and in my own heart to understand that this was a period of time where it was okay to not listen to people in my life because they weren't guiding me in the right way, even though they loved me. But that I had to flip the script as I got older and understood more about mindset to it matters about the alignment of having the right people pouring the right messages into my mind. That's a healthy mindset for me to have, that's nurturing my soul, that's nurturing my mindset, and to learn how to trust certain people's messages and then filter out the wrong ones. So that was a really interesting process that I have gone through in my life, in learning to hear and listen and trust certain messages, certain voices, certain people, and understand that even if there are people in my life that love me and that I care about, that there's certain messages that aren't meant for me. It's actually them, and that they were mirroring a lot of their own insecurities and own fears and own rejections and own negative self-talk, whatever that looked like, onto me, even if they didn't know it and even if they didn't mean to. So that was a really interesting process and switch that took place as I continued on in my journey. But one of the really interesting things is that even though the journey of flipping that script completely and learning the difference in what to listen to and what not to listen to, my courage and my strength grew more and more and more and more the more that I put myself out there. Now, did that mean higher fear and more rejection? Yes, in a way, because I was seeking greater opportunity and I was seeking bigger and bigger things all the time. And so you've probably heard that when you put yourself out there, you open yourself up to more negative feedback or to more, rejection from people. So there's a part of that is true, but doesn't necessarily have to be if you are continuing down complete alignment with who you are, what you desire, what you want in life, and pay attention to who is influencing you in your circle. There's certainly going to be the people out there that are jealous and very insecure and have their own issues. But that's where you have to learn to filter out who you're listening to and who you're not listening to, and what you choose to pay attention to and be influenced by. So I like to tell this story about the frog in the pot. This is such an amazing example that I use in so many different ways. And it's very applicable to what we're talking about with mindset now and being influenced by other people. So if you take a frog and you drop it into a boiling pot of hot water, it will immediately jump out. But if you take a frog and put it in cold water, it might swim around for a few minutes, and then you turn up the heat and basically it slowly boils. The idea is that the influence of the hot water is happening so slowly, so gradually, that the frog doesn't realize it's actually dying. So when you think about the influence in your life that you are allowing to take place in your mind that's affecting your attitude, your actions, your opportunities, everything around you every day, all the time, it's very much like that frog in the pot. The reason it's so important for you to get rid of the negative people in your life, or have the healthy boundaries, or really have strong filters, depending on, and a lot of times this happens with family situations. So if you are not able to completely cut somebody off or from your life, or if that's just challenging, you absolutely have a choice to have healthy boundaries with that person, and to have the strong filters of what you allow and what you do not allow to influence your own life and your own mindset. Because it's amazing how even 1 5-minute conversation with somebody has the ability to completely throw your focus off, and when your focus is thrown off, your attitude is thrown off, your perception versus reality gets thrown off, your decision-making abilities get thrown off, the possibility of possibly the rest of the day, or depending on what happened, the rest of the week or the month. So your mind is such a powerful tool that you absolutely have the ability to control it when you've learned the right skills and when you've learned the right tools. Now, does that mean that even if you have a strong mindset and you have the tools, that you're not going to be completely thrown off and bugged by it for even a few minutes? No, not necessarily. There are those really frustrating circumstances that happen. There are those very frustrating people in our lives that just kind of get under our skin for a few minutes or a few hours until we can kind of flip that switch a little bit. And there's different techniques and different tools that can help you get stronger and stronger and better at flipping that switch a lot faster. But the idea is that you always have a choice. You always have control over you. You can't control different things that happen in the world. You can't control somebody else and how they may react or act toward you. But you always have a choice in what your next step is going to be, what your next behavior response is going to be, or what your next verbal response is going to be. And so the stronger that you learn to control your mindset, the more that you work on this regularly and make it a part of your life, the stronger that you will become, and the easier that it will be to implement the right tool at the right moment to help you completely flip that switch around. Now, for some people, it literally may be a physical stance. So in my coaching, if it works for some people, I will coach them. You literally need to take a physical stance. So this might seem a little funny, but it's one of those things where don't knock it till you've tried it, kind of a thing. So if it's powerful for you, because I believe in visualization, and I believe in how powerful visualization can be for yourself in so many different ways. And it can take place when you're trying to flip that mindset switch as well. And that is, if it works for you to visualize yourself as a powerful woman, as a powerful man, maybe a superhero, back in the day, G.I. Joes and superheroes and She-Ra and He-Man and all those things were super popular. So if that helps you to visualize yourself as a powerful superhero, or DC or Marvel comic in some way, then do that. Whatever that is, a warrior of some kind, then do that if that helps you. And you may literally have to take a physical stance. So one of the clients that I work with visualizes herself as Superwoman. So whenever she gets frustrated, whenever she's in a confrontation of some kind, whether it's on the phone or physically in person with somebody, she will get herself first out of that space, whatever that is. Maybe that's hanging up the phone. Maybe that's walking out of, that room that you're in an altercation with. Whatever it is that's creating that negative energy, you first want to remove yourself from that physical space. Then then she visualizes herself as she puts up a shield and she has a strong stance that she takes, and she closes her eyes for 30 seconds and she repeats mantras to herself. And within a few seconds, she's able to absolutely flip that mental switch that she has and put herself in a different state of mind that allows her to continue on with a more positive mindset and in a stronger mindset that allows her to carry on the rest of whatever she needs to do in the conversation with that person, in the situation that she's in the rest of her day, whatever that looks like. And that's something that has worked with a lot of people. I coach people all over the world every single day, and that's definitely been something that has helped, that when you try it, and you get yourself out of the physical space, that's number one. Even if you're on the phone, it doesn't matter. The negative energy is with the association. So it doesn't matter if you're on a Zoom, if you're on the phone, if you're in a personal face-to-face, just remove yourself from the situation. That might be going for a walk, whatever that looks like for you. I use walks. I go for walks a lot. So for me, walking definitely gets me in a different physical space. So that's number one. So number two is the physical stance. So whatever that is. And for a lot of people, it's just literally closing your eyes. So changing your physical body structure. So if you were standing up when you were having the conversation, then maybe you sit down. If you were sitting down, then maybe you stand up and you walk around, whatever that is. Maybe that might be physically getting into a superhero stance, whatever that looks like. But you want to physically change your stance and your body language in that way for yourself. And then the third thing is the mantras. So some of you may have used mantras, some of you maybe haven't used mantras. And basically, for some people that can be, some people it might be Bible verses. For some people it might be verses to a very powerful song that gives you courage, that you feel power from. For some people that might be some internal language that you need to change. So if you feel weak in that moment, then you might need to say, I am a strong, powerful woman, whatever that looks like. Or I am a strong, powerful warrior. I am a strong communicator. I am a problem solver. So when you use the statements, I am, you're speaking to yourself. You're speaking to your soul. You're speaking to your own subconscious. So you are telling yourself that you are stronger than you may have felt in that frustrating, confrontational moment, whatever that was for you. So there's 3 steps that I like to teach that are really simple when you're trying to switch your mindset and literally flip the switch to get yourself from that frustrating negative mindset, whatever caused the situation, to completely getting yourself in a different state of mind. And there are different things. There's different things that work for different people. This 3-step process is something that I have found that works for myself and that works for a lot of my clients. But there are different things. For some people, it literally may be listening to music. I myself, I listen to a lot of music, and sometimes that works for me. That gets me into a different, calmer state, especially when I put on certain types of music that I know are going to help me flip that switch to get me refocused, recentered, realigned with my purpose so that I can continue on and that it doesn't ruin the next hour or the rest of my day. So there's a lot of different tips and tricks that work for different people, but the idea behind it is that don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid if it sounds funny, if it sounds kind of hokey and it's not maybe really going to work, just try it. Music is very, very powerful. Music is something that I have grown up with that is near and dear to my heart, that I have found to use in a different way when it comes to mindset, in addition to the fact that I just love music. But if you don't like music and if that's not your jam, no worries. Just find the thing that definitely works for you and keep trying. For some people, it might be journaling. Some people need to literally just get their anger and get their frustration and get their thoughts down on paper and just, and that might be with a hard pen and hard lines because you've got a lot of frustration and anger going at the moment, whatever that looks like. And you might need a journal for 30 minutes or for an hour, whatever that is that it takes for you to get to that different state of mind. For some people, then it's keeping a journal. And then for some people, it literally might be the process of getting your thoughts down on paper and burning it and just saying, goodbye. I got this all down on paper and I am literally burning it up and putting it in the past, and it is no longer. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but I am a true believer in taking action and not just thinking about it. You don't want to just sit and stew in your negativity and in the frustration. It's important to take action. And if one thing doesn't work, at least you tried it and it doesn't work. And you try something else and you try something else, because it's not a boxed program. I'm not a boxed program kind of a person. I've been in education for 23 years. I'm a retired business professor, and I've taught a lot of different things with personal and professional development. And I can tell you that as a specialized curriculum designer, that I'm not really a boxed curriculum kind of person. I design programs and I design curriculum all over the world for people. And and for everything that I do is completely individualized, because I believe that not everything works for everyone, but it's important to keep tweaking and keep trying to figure out what's going to work for you. And in that process, you may be wildly surprised at what works for you, something that you never would have thought. If you're not a writer and you think, oh, journaling, that seems like a lot of work. Why would I want to do that? You may be surprised. It may be the thing that does work for you. It may be the exact, secret sauce that you need to have and create that healthier mindset and learn to flip that switch a little bit. So don't be afraid to try new things. There's a lot of people that think that have found swimming, to be very therapeutic for them, or just exercise in general. There's so many things, but that's the 3-step process that I teach, that I have found that works for a lot of people. So let me just recap that. So 1, physically remove yourself from the space, even if it was just a phone or a Zoom conversation. 2, get yourself in a different physical stance. Go for a walk, sit down, stand up, jog, exercise, whatever that looks like. And 3, the using I am statements to really speak positivity into your heart, soul, and mind, and into your subconscious of what you're truly capable of and who you truly are, and not allow your subconscious to believe the negative feelings that you felt in that situation and in that moment. So that's the 3-step process to really flip that mindset switch. But let's go back for a second. I talked a little bit about influence and the power of influence, and how that is a huge factor in creating the healthy mindset to begin with. So we've talked a little bit about my journey and how I flipped the switch from not believing, not trusting, not listening to at times people in my life, and doing the just opposite. And then as I learned more about mindset, learning the power of influence and who to listen to and who to trust when it is in complete alignment with who I am, what I desire, and the alignment of who they are, and that connection where I know that they are a healthy person and a healthy mindset that is not going to even accidentally pour negativity into me because they haven't dealt with their own stuff, really. And not that we're perfect. It's not about perfection. It's not about always being right, because we should always be on a learning journey. We should always surround ourselves with people that have a positive enough mindset that they are on their own journey to always be better. Not to be in competition with anyone else, but to be in competition with yourself to be better than the person you were yesterday. Okay? So, and that's very important. I want you guys to really think about that, because that is a huge mindset issue when it comes to being a speaker, an author, a business person, brick and mortar or online, any kind of a coach. I have people ask me all the time, Lori, are you afraid that people are going to, rip off your programs or rip off your speech or rip off this or that? No, I'm not afraid of that at all, because I know that there's one person that needs to hear what I what I have to say in order to have that aha transformational journey, first of all. And when you truly care about people, the rest of it doesn't matter. The other part of that is that I'm never in competition with anyone else, because I know that no one else is me and no one else can be me, because of the special, what I call internal toolbox that only I possess, only I have. So never be in competition with anyone else, only be in competition with yourself, and push yourself to drive yourself to be better than the person you were yesterday. That's the only competition that should ever be in your mindset. When you start to pay attention and get yourself in a negative mindset of the competition around you, what it does is completely throws off your alignment and your focus, because what works for one person is not going to work for you. So that's what you really have to remember when it comes to mindset in trying to level up your life and level up your business in all aspects to be the best version of you that you can be. Now let's talk about the toolbox for just a minute. So I truly believe in using your internal toolbox to solve external problems. You have an internal toolbox that only you have to solve external problems in only a way that you can. Guaranteed, I don't even have to know you personally to know that. So I have all kinds of internal tools in my toolbox. I've learned a lot from poverty. I've learned a lot from major successes. I've learned a lot from traveling and teaching all over the world. I've learned a lot as a mom, as a wife, all these different things. I've learned a lot from rejection, from fear, from trial and error, from all the different people in my lives, all the different opportunities that either worked or didn't work. All the things that make me who I am make me very uniquely qualified to solve external problems. Now, I have people ask me all the time, well, Lori, there's people out there that grew up in poverty. Like, what makes you different? Or there's business professors, what makes you different? So the answer to that is no one can deliver things the way that I do, right? I have a certain way that I speak, that I present. I have a certain state of being when I'm on either virtual stages or physical stages. I have a certain internal essence about me that cannot be replicated. No matter how many times you watch my videos, no matter how many times you listen to me, no one can be me. So even if they have a similar skill set, even if they have similar things in their background, they are not going to have the same lens to solve a problem. So let me give you an example. If you have two people that have witnessed an incident, let's say in the park, and you have police officers that go up to you and they get eyewitness statements, there will be details within those eyewitness statements and accounts that will be very different. They might be little details or they might be huge details. It's because of the internal lens in which that person completely viewed and absorbed the incident. It's what they felt. It's the associations that might be from their history. It might be associations that they're not even aware of on a subconscious level, mixed with what they're aware of on a conscious level. Okay, so that's why, and this is very common, you hear this a lot. You get two or more eyewitness statements, or even one, and the reality of what happened versus that one can even be different because of all of the internal tools that are in their toolbox that allowed them to view that situation differently. That is why, even if you have a similar presentation or a similar program or a similar background, you are not going to have the same lens to solve that problem that you are anyone else in the world. And that's why there's no competition. That's why having the negative mindset around the idea of being competitive is so toxic, because no one can be you. So when you know and understand that you are uniquely qualified to solve external problems in only a way that you can, it completely takes competition off the table. You no longer have to worry about someone. Now, does that mean, don't have things trademarked and don't do your due diligence and keep your stuff, safe and protected? No, not at all. But it means that you don't have fear around that. It means that you're not constantly worried about it, which is a huge, huge difference in how you're viewing things based on the positive, negative mindset revolved around that competition. So it's very, very important that you understand who you are created to be, who you are uniquely qualified to be, and how that you move forward in the world every single day in using your internal tools to constantly solve external problems. That may be in your business, that may be for your clients, that may be your bigger purpose in the world and how all those pieces fit together. That may be somebody calling you randomly, needing help to solve a problem that only you can. I have people tell me all the time, they say, oh my gosh, Lori, you just completely flipped my business around in 30 seconds. It's because of the unique qualifications that I have that only I can create and design and coach and do what I do and do it so well that I'm able to solve problems very, very quickly. Now, the process is going to be different with how they move forward with the coaching and the information and how they move forward with that, but that's their own journey. So it's very important for you to understand what you need to do to take everything with who you are, not sweep it under the rug, but embrace it fully, right? Everything about me, I've learned to embrace fully. There's stuff in my past I'm not proud of. There's circumstances and instances that I can say, oh, wow, I wish that didn't happen. But the reality is that it all shaped who I am today. That's leading me to speak to you today and step into the full essence of who I am in being Lori McNeil and running an international company at several levels. So that's something that's unique to me that I had to get to the point where I understood it all matters. It all absolutely matters. And I need to embrace all of it every single day. And it's not just a matter of, oh, I accept it, but no, I'm proud of all of it because I'm proud of all the pieces that had to be in place to create who I am right now today. So some of you need to deal with your past a little bit. Some of you need to figure out how to transition from your past into who you need to be, who the world needs you to be, how you need to show up in the world every day to be that full, unique, awesome person that you are. And some of you need to work on your mindset about how you view your past, how you view yourself today, and how you can create that positive mindset and how you can get yourself back into integrity with who you are and in that positive mindset so that you can continue to be the amazing person that you are, that you were created to be. So the influence is huge, you guys. So I talked a little bit about the influence of people, but I want to talk a little bit about other influences that might not be with people. This can be with what you're reading and what you're literally putting into your brain. So remember, I talked about music, and I love music. I've learned to be very aware about how different types of music completely affect my state of mind. So for some of you, I want you to think about this. Your music and what you're reading might not be in alignment and in full integrity with who you are and your purpose of what you're trying to accomplish in the world. It's one of those things versus who you are internally and who you are externally, and do they match? So if you're running a company and if you're trying to help people in one way, but you are putting things into your heart, soul, and mind that don't match with what you're listening to, right? Whether that's podcasts, whether that's music that's not in alignment whether that's what you're reading, whether that's smutty movies, whatever that is, right? Whatever that is, if you find yourself pouring things into your heart, soul, and mind that really aren't in integrity with who you are and what you're teaching and what you're coaching, and when you're, doing your business, that's a major problem. That's a major integrity problem that is messing with your mindset. So I want you to be very aware with everything that you are allowing to influence you, right? So that might be neighbors, that might be your family, that might be friends, that might be the clients. Maybe you literally are attracting the wrong clients, right? Or you're operating from a mindset of scarcity around money, and so you're taking any clients just for the money when they really aren't the client that you should be working with. That could be the way that you're building your business isn't in full alignment, and so there's different opportunities and different people that are surfacing because of that are really messing with your mindset in all kinds of ways. That could be what you're reading, that could be what you're listening to, that could be podcasts, that could be music, that could be the books you're reading, the movies you're watching. Okay, that could be who you hang out with on, Friday nights. It could be a variety of things. But I want to encourage you to get out of the mindset of, this is who I am when I'm doing business, and then I get to relax and be myself. Okay, that's a negative mindset. You don't want to get in the mindset of feeling like you're on and then you're off, and then you're on and then you're off. That honestly is exhausting. And being out of integrity is one of the biggest ways that entrepreneurs get burned out. They get burned out for a lot of different reasons, and that's one of them, because they're out of integrity with themselves and who they are and what they want to be. Now, if you're trying to create a business that's different from maybe who you are because you're trying to improve yourself, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to pay attention about the process that needs to happen. If you're trying to better yourself, there's going to be a little chaos. There's going to be a little bit of exhaustion as you're trying to switch your mindset, switch your lifestyle, switch your decision and your behaviors in that. That is very different than staying in this loop of doing it. There's going to be a little bit of back and forth as you're trying to switch, becoming a better person, operating differently, having a better mindset, all of those things. So that's a little bit of a different process with that. But you don't want to get into the habit of being two different people, because that's physically and mentally exhausting for you. And you don't want to do that. So you may say, oh, I'm good with the people I'm hanging out with, but I want to encourage you to pay attention to the other things that you're allowing to influence you that's absolutely messing your mindset, which is really leaving money and opportunity on the table, because you're not viewing yourself and the opportunities in the way that you should, because of all of these negative influences that are in your life. So mindset is so huge. And I hear mindset a lot, but what's really interesting to me is that more entrepreneurs need to really pay attention to all aspects of what that looks like, to create it and maintain it and learn to flip it around if they find that their mindset is not in the right place. It's not like, oh, I read a book, I took a class, and now I'm good. Mindset should be one of those things that you continue absolutely every day to be fully aware of and work on, and allow yourself the space to prioritize it, because your mind is the building block where everything else flows. Absolutely every decision, every thought, every action, the people, everything flows. So it's got to be that foundational thing that you continue to prioritize absolutely every single day, and not just randomly listen to a podcast or randomly read a book or have this, what I call spaghetti approach, throwing spaghetti at the wall, where you just kind of work on it when you think about it or when you feel like you need to. No, you don't. You need to maintain your vehicle, right? You don't just have this fight or flight response to mindset or to fixing your car and taking it into the shop when there's a problem. There's a maintenance process that has to happen, and your mindset is no different. You maintain a healthy mindset so that you don't get yourself in trouble where you have to do a complete rebuild of your vehicle. Okay. So some of you may think of it in terms of if you change your oil, if you keep your fluids topped off, all that kind of thing, you're going to have a lot fewer issues with your actual car that you're driving, right? And you won't have to take it into the shop as much. If you don't care for it, if you don't maintain it, if you're not paying attention, that's going to lead to a lot bigger and more expensive and detrimental problems later on that might lead to a complete rebuild or completely buying a new vehicle. And your mindset really is very similar in that way, that it needs to have daily intentional maintenance and action prioritized toward it. So remember the 3 simple steps that I taught you guys a few minutes ago. Remember that it takes daily intentional action to learn where you came from, embrace it, stay in integrity, being in competition with yourself, not with anyone else, and what that looks like every single day to be the best version of yourself that you possibly can, to use all of the internal tools that you can to step into a greater sense of uniqueness to solve problems externally in the world in only a way that you can.
Wow.
I feel like clapping. Can I clap? That was awesome. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Corey.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure Lori's okay with you clapping, I would think.
Where can we find you?
Yeah, well, the easy answer is everywhere. But if you go to LoriMcNeil.com, you can get a little bit more information about me. I have my blog. And then, of course, from that one spot, you can connect with me on all the social media sites so that you don't have to go to each one and try to find me that way. So if you just go to LoriMcNeil.com, that will connect you to all social media platforms. You can email me, everything. One-stop shop to connect with me.
Perfect. And we'll put that in the comment. I'm going to put that in the comments in the Blue Talks Flip Your Script group, and Corey will figure out how to get them all wherever we are right now. We're everywhere right now. So wherever we are, I'll put you in charge of that. I'm going to ask you a question that I've asked almost all our speakers this week. So I talk about thought weeds, these old negative thoughts, which you spoke about as well, and also these weeds that turn into belief weeds, because if you think a thought weed long enough, it turns into a belief about yourself. So, and I talk about mind seeds. So mind seeds are these beautiful intentional seeds of thought that we plant in our fertile mind. And those are the seeds that we want to have grow. So I'd love for you to share a mind seed of yours with us that our viewers can plant in their fertile mind, and have that grow alongside or in the meantime, or, instead of the thought weeds that are growing. So not to put you on the spot, but go girl.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many that one of the things.
Pick your personal, like something that works for you in your life. Like I like to get personal. Like what's a seed that you plant in your life when you, yeah.
So to be honest, it stems from my journey when I was young, and that is, yes, you can do it. I mean, literally, yes, you can do it. And that may sound so simple, but it stems from the journey of having to really plant that belief in myself and not listen to, all the other things around me. So it's not about capability or, having enough money or being pretty enough or all those other beliefs, right? It's yes, you can do it. You want to do it, you do it. And so I really have stepped into that throughout, my whole life, greater and greater and greater. It's who cares if anyone's ever done it before? Who cares if this person over here has failed or if it hasn't worked or if it hasn't whatever? Like, yes, we can do it because we're going to do it differently. And I'm going to be the one to do it, not these 5 other people that tried it, and because of the internal tools that I talked about, right? That I can step into and solve this problem in a different way with a different mindset that probably no one else has even thought of. So yes, I am capable. Yes, I can do it. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter if anyone else has been successful. It doesn't even matter if it's an idea that no one else has even thought of. It's okay. That doesn't matter. I have a desire. I have a thought. I want to do something. Yes, I can do it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yes, I can do it. That's your mind seed for those of you that are watching from Lori McNeil today. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Corey?
Yeah. So I had one question myself as well, Lori, just I guess more of a teaser for the next time we're going to have you on. So for the event near the end of the month, can you tell, and I just to make it clear to people, I didn't tell Lori this in advance, so I'm putting her on the spot because, you know, it might be a big question to ask on the spot, but can you, and actually, you know what, I'll switch the question up a bit. You've been doing virtual events a lot lately. COVID hit us 6 months ago, let's say, to the point where everybody's trying to scramble about how can I bring my business online. So my question is, I was going to ask you about how you've been landing so many, but I'm going to switch the question and ask you, honestly, what's it been like in terms of the impact on your business? Because I think a lot of people are saying, well, I'm struggling to find online events. And when I do find them, of course, most of them aren't paid events. So if they don't know how to bring those people back into their funnel and their world, they don't know how to monetize it. But I'm just curious what you've seen, because you're doing a lot of them a month. So there must be a reason you're doing 15 to 17 every month outside of wanting to impact a lot of lives. So can you tell us, at least, has it been good on your business? Do you recommend virtual events? Have you been able to pivot into virtual events and it be profitable? And I know that's a big question, but I just love to get your take on that.
Yeah. So yes. So let me tell you a little bit about, not that you have to have my background, right? Because you don't. But as a business professor, I taught a lot in the classroom and online. So I have a lot of experience in teaching online and creating programs and creating curricula online. So when COVID hit, the transition for me was super smooth, was super fast, because I'd already spent 23 years, you know, at different levels doing that. And I thought, well, at first, I'm not going to lie. At first I was like, oh crap, you know, oh no, like, I've got to cancel all these events and I've got to, you know, but I didn't sit there, right? It was like, okay, how do I put my thinking cap on? What am I going to do? Oh yeah, I'm going to dig into my toolbox and pull out a different set of tools that I haven't used in a little while because I've been on physical stages. And yes, I can. And yes, I can do that. And it looks different, right, with the spaces of being in, you know, the educational system versus doing things online. But I can do that. And so I just started to develop things in a little bit different way, virtually, and reach out to a few people and kind of see if I could get the ball rolling. And because I pivoted quickly and because I jumped on board very quickly, I was at the very beginning stages where people were wanting guests. People were like, yes, let's figure this out together. Let's do this. Now, that was kind of my transformation, my pivotal journey with doing online. It has been incredibly profitable. And actually 2020 has been one of my biggest years. So it has been incredibly profitable because of some little secrets that I've kind of learned along the way that I will be sharing in the next event. But it's absolutely possible, even if you've never taught online, even if you don't have experience doing that, you absolutely can. And I'm going to be teaching you some very simple things that you can do right away immediately to implement, to get yourself going on how to create some of your own stuff, how to reach out to people, how to get yourself booked on virtual events. I'm going to take you through some nuggets of the whole process to be more successful with virtual events, because I'll be honest, until COVID hit, I was doing a lot of stuff online, but I'm obviously doing more now than I ever planned in my business. And I've learned so much in such a different way that I will continue doing a lot more virtually than I ever thought that I would have built into my business plan. So even after things kind of change and evolve and, you know, go back to normal, whatever that is, that I will continue to have like a bigger virtual component than I would have said yes to even 6 months or a year ago, because it was a part of my business, but not nearly as part. And I've learned so much in doing it, and it's been so profitable, and I've been able to reach so many more people and take advantage of so many more opportunities that now I'm doing it much more intentionally and building it into a stronger aspect of my overall business plan as I build out internationally moving forward. And I'm excited about that. I really am. It's been a wild ride, but it's been absolutely amazing. So yes, I do 15 to 17 virtual summits a month, and tens of thousands of people. And I'm a guest speaker actually next month for like 2.5 million people around the world. So it's virtual summits of all sizes, right? All different sizes. If you've never done it, then I'm going to teach you how to get started and just do it. Because there's a mindset issue around stages, virtual or not, with, oh, if there's only going to be 50 people in the room, then why does that matter, right? If it's only a small event and they've never done it and they're brand new, then it's probably not worth my time, right? I hear this a lot. So I'm going to teach about a little bit about the mindset around stages and about the approach and how it's causing you to basically not move forward in the right ways and not move forward in the communication and booking that and locking that in because you're not even in the right mindset with how you're thinking about your own business, your own opportunity, and the overall alignment for how to even build your business and using that successfully. So there's a lot of different little nuggets that I'm going to be dropping during that event. So you don't want to miss it, because I have found incredible success with virtual stages and physical stages. And so moving forward, then I'm going to be integrating back in, the physical stages as well. But it's going to be really interesting, because there's a lot of things that I've learned that people haven't learned because they're too wrapped up in being frustrated and doing the same things, not, expecting that different result, trying to figure out how to make it work. And so I'm going to be unlocking some secret sauce for you guys. And so I'm really, really excited about that. And it's definitely an event that you're not going to want to miss.
Well, where's the event?
Well, I can answer that.
Are we not supposed to know the event? Is this a secret event?
No. No, it's the same Ilyse event that we did in June after we did our event. So it's the Amplify Your Message event.
Oh, okay, great. So it's a sister event or a cousin event.
Yeah, the cousin event. I'll put the links and stuff in the comments section here, so that if somebody's watching now as we wind down, or the replay, they'll know how to get there. But I tried not to promote too heavily whenever we're running this event. So starting on Monday, I'm all in on that event. So everybody will start seeing it. Like, I'll even be updating my own Facebook banner, so you'll see the different event right away as well. So yes, that event's coming up, and Lori's going to be a big part of it. And she's going to be sharing the bill. Just for those, since we're winding down today's event, just for those that want to know, should they attend it, you're going to see people like Lori. Lori's going to be sharing the bill with Kevin Harrington. If you guys don't know who Kevin is, he's the original Shark Tank shark. And he's also, which a lot of people don't know, the creator of the infomercial and the As Seen On, the whole brand. So you don't want to miss him, obviously. Larry Winget. I really dig Larry Winget, but I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's the pit bull of personal development. One of his books is called, I should look up the actual name instead of just saying it, but his books, like, one of the titles is something like "You're broke and it's your fault and I can prove it." And that's his personality. And so Larry's been on Oprah. He's been on big stages everywhere. So you're not going to want to miss these speakers. I mean, this is world class. Evan Carmichael, you guys know who Evan is. He's the YouTuber who I think he has something like 400 million views on YouTube for his business videos. I mean, and he's going to be talking about how to do that. So yeah, not to be missed. And Lori's going to be, I believe, our keynote opening at on the speaker day. So big event coming up, and Lori's going to be a part of it. That's the takeaway.
Yes.
Awesome. And that's the event's going to run the whole week, but Lori's on September 30th. So just for those that are listening to this, say, well, I need to see the virtual one. They can't make it all. Lori's on September 30th. And without me looking, I think it's 11 a.m. Eastern. Without me looking at the calendar, I might be wrong, but I know you're the first one, Lori, and I believe we start every day at 11 that week. So I'm going to say I think you're 11 Eastern. Again, though, if a person goes to amplifyyourmessages.com, which I'll post in the comments, you'll be able to find the schedule there. So thank you, Lori. We salute you. I thank you
so much.
And it's a to be continued.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much. Reach out to me anytime, LoriMcNeil.com.
Awesome.
And enjoy the rest of your journey wherever you are. Where are you? Where is this library that you stand in right now?
I popped up my banner really quick just so that there wasn't this like crazy background behind me. But yeah, where am I? I am in a very small community called Union.
Yeah, like I don't even know, where is that?
It is in eastern part of Oregon, and I'm not positive, but I think the population here is like 1,000 or something.
Wow.
So yeah, to be honest, I'm scrambling thinking, where's Wi-Fi? Where am I going to get Wi-Fi? Like, so they were very gracious enough to let me use one of their downstairs basement type rooms. And I was very, very grateful. So I realize the lighting's a little funny, but I'm so glad that it worked out. And I'm so
we should give them a shout out. We should give them the library a shout out.
Yes, it's Union City Library in Oregon.
Okay, Union City. Thank you, Union City, for making this happen with Lori today.
Yes.
Wow. Amazing what technology has allowed us to do over the years, and it's allowing Lori to impact lives and make a living now working online without having to travel as much as she probably will be in the future. So awesome. So thank you so much, Lori. And even myself, I'm going to be taking notes at your when you deliver the next time around talking about virtual events, because I'm doing lots of them. I'm having success, but I know I'm going to learn a lot of things from you because it hasn't been my big focus. So yeah. So I can't wait. So thank you so much, Lori. We'll send you backstage, and we will continue to wave the flag for you and all the good things you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Lori. Wow. So another fantastic speaker, another fantastic week, another fantastic event. I am super stoked. Here we are Friday. I've been moving all week in between co-hosting this event with you and about 1,000 other things. And I still got all my days. And I still have energy. So that tells you how great these speakers are to keep me at that energy level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's been my pleasure. I'm not sure what you wanted to share at the end. We are a little bit over. I know that you said that you wanted to ask me a question or.
Yeah. Well, the only thing I was going to
remember.
No, that's all good. The only thing I was going to mention to you when you were talking about as far as you were saying how I'm going back on memory exactly wording here, but basically you were talking about how we have to figure out how we can take back the power in our life and add value. And you were mentioning about how people, they lose their identity sometimes whenever they
hard when we identify ourselves with a certain role in our life, even finding a new getting into a new relationship. I'm sure that a lot of you have patterns in who you're attracting in your life. And the reason we attract who we attract is because we are kind of connected to the role that we play. And a lot of times my clients are like, I don't know why I'm attracting the same person. We've heard that, you attract your father or your mother or whatever, right? Well, just put that aside for a second. But when we attract a certain archetype or personality, it's because really they're complementing who we feel comfortable being, even though we might not like it, right? There's a comfort in knowing at least what our role is. And a lot of times with my clients, and I let them know this right away, you're going to find that people are going to have a challenge relating to who you are when the characteristics of who you are and the star of your own show start to change.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. So here's what I was going to.
That was an answer, but.
No. Well, but here's what I wanted to add to that, or not add to that, but here's what I wanted to mention, because I feel like it's important to comment on what you said about the identity. And like I said, I want to give Lori enough time to share her presentation around mindset, but that idea about what we identify with, I really think finding our purpose. And I don't want to, because I know some people get bothered when they hear people say find your passion or you're not being fulfilled and all that. But I really believe we all have a purpose. We all have something we identify with that we're doing in the world, whether it's the one we want to be doing or we just do. But I do feel this, and and I'm always happy for somebody to disagree with me on this, but I do feel that us finding our purpose is crucial. Now, I'm not saying find your passion or you're not having a full life. But what I'm saying is I think it's important for you to figure out why you're here. And why I bring this up, Ilyse, is I think this is the core underlying problem with what happens when people say, when I retire, I'm going to do this.
Oh, and then You know, I lived in the largest retirement community in the world, and a majority of my clients are still the retired ones that thought they would automatically be happy when they retired. And I will tell you that, you know what, they have more time to recognize that their inner child has been running way more than their show than they recognized. And yeah.
Well, and to that point, what I find interesting about it is those same people that say that, and I'm generalizing here, so I'm not saying it's obviously 90%. I'm just saying a large percentage. How many times do we hear about somebody saying, when I get 65, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then they retire and 2 weeks later they pass away? It happens a lot. But here's the thing. What I think the reason is, this is just my opinion, why I feel that happens. And of course, we're going to hear that more because it's, you hear about somebody dying. I mean, you're going to hear that more than you are the people that say they're going to retire.
I lived with 250,000 and growing individuals who are now have the freedom to enjoy their life. It's a choice that we make when we have the freedom. That's Absolutely. What's important about figuring out what we love and how we love ourselves, regardless of our career, regardless of being a parent, regardless of all those things.
Yeah, and a whole separate discussion, which we'll have probably another day, maybe a Flip Your Script Friday down the road, is about the idea of choosing and making that choice as to how you live that after that time and what you should be doing about it. But what I think, so I'm just driving at what I think the reason is that so many people this happens to, where they say, I'm going to leave, I'm going to wait until. And so what I'm getting at is, that's a whole probably 2-hour conversation about why waiting until and why you should live now and all those kind of things. But what I find intriguing is a lot of times the only thing that's changed between the one that said, I'm going to do this when I retire and I'm going to be so happy when I'm done working at this place I hate, and the person that passed away 2 weeks later, the only difference is they don't have that job they hate anymore. And I think the reason it happens, because you think automatically we just pulled the toxins out, they're going to be happier. But I think what happens is they lose their identity and their purpose. And I think even though they didn't want that to be their purpose, them getting up every day and going in and doing something gave them fulfillment. Now, having said that, they also have shown, and this has actually been shown, that if you go volunteer and find stuff that's rewarding after you retire, it actually replaces that. And people that volunteer are happier by, I forget what the percentage is, but it's through the roof. And so what I'm getting at is you could replace that work you're doing every day with volunteering and probably be happier. But what I'm meaning is people say, I'm going to just sit around and watch TV all day, every day when I retire, and then they pass away 2 weeks later. I think it's because they don't have that purpose or that identity of being that person that went to that job every day. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's a very, very valid opinion. I don't
know if truth is to it, but it just seems.
It could be that that's what it seems like to us when we look at the situation through what Lori was saying too. Our perspective is the lens in which we look into the world. So it might seem that way. Juju might say you're judging a little. I don't know. But here's the thing is we don't know, right? I don't know why somebody does what they do. I just know that when I'm working one-on-one or even in large groups, at support groups where I speak, in companies, whatever it is, that the people, the root of it is that their value and who they are and their relationship to themselves is based on a lot of external things. Being successful financially, having the best house or the relationship, like all of these things. So the best thing is to catch it now. If you're not happy, if there's something inside that just doesn't feel right and you don't know what to do about it, or there's a theme that keeps showing up in situations when you're ready to get to the next level or you're ready to take that next step, stop for a second, get your eyes on your own paper, right? Where are you spending your energy? And that means, am I waiting for somebody else to change so I can then be happy? If that's the case, it's not going to work. And I'm not saying leave the relationship or do whatever, but recognize that you're the one that you can change. And there's a quote, and I'm not sure where the quote was from, and I don't know if I'm going to be quoting it exactly the same way, but when you change, your relationship and the relationships to you change. Everything changes when you start to change. I've seen, and I haven't gone into like clients who've worked in huge companies that had challenges in a male dominant company, industry and DC and on Wall Street. And, I'm like, listen, you can't do anything about anyone else, but what would you like to see happen? I want to be appreciated. I want my value to be recognized, right? I want to be heard. And then when they change their perspective from, I want the guy to leave or they need to go because I'm miserable, to what they want, I get a phone call a week or two later and they're like, you're not going to believe this, but the person who was whatever just got transferred out of nowhere, and they've been here for 20 something years. Or I have somebody in the Coast Guard who's a client and something's going on. I'm like, well, how do you want your work environment? What do you want to see? Forget about what's not working and what's distracting and destroying the environment. What do you want? I want a peaceful work environment. I want to work as a team and we're all on the same page with the same goal in mind. A week later, I get an email. You're not going to believe this, but so-and-so had to take the early retirement. Like, things will change, but it starts with you. And how they change is not your business, because you don't need them to change anymore to be okay.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? I know I'm kind of like off the tangent, but finding your purpose is so important. But the beginning phase of that is recognizing who you are and who you want to be in your purpose. 100%. And how you feel about yourself in your purpose. Why are you in chronic pain? I mean, there's a lot of external things that manifest when we're not okay.
Yeah, and I feel like the other challenge, or just a thought I had, somebody said something in a private message in relation to our conversation yesterday about judgment. And so I'll just say this one quick thing just as we wind down, but it's a slippery slope sometimes, I think, too, though, where between judgment and what's close to judgment, or, when we are trying to help somebody, are we judging them without realizing it? And what made me think of is the Maya Angelou quote. So there's a Maya Angelou quote that most people know it as Oprah's quote. That's basically, once you know better, you do better. And a person said to me the other day, but what's better? That's judging. You're judging what's better.
I always say you can't unknow what you know. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like that. I mean, the way you just said it, there's no judgment involved, because that's just what you know. And you get to decide whether that's better or not.
And that's what mind seeds, that's what differentiates mind seeds from mantras and from affirmations. Like, it's really hard for some people to look at themselves in the middle of their moment, right? And saying, I am powerful, I am great, because there's a voice in the back of your head going, BS, bullshit. But if you can say, I'm ready, right? I'm ready to feel powerful. Now that is neutral.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying it too. It's definitely
it is a slippery slope there, that whole judgment thing. But
yeah, and when I say that, I should mention I love that Maya Angelou quote. I'm just making the comment that that's where it gets to be a slippery slope. And I mean, some of the top thought leaders and influencers that we follow, I mean, a lot of their statements and quotes could be construed as judgment. They're saying.
I have my own opinions, not judgment.
What I'm saying is there is definitely a lot of where, like, if a person feels they have to knock you out of your comfort zone, and they might say, here's why your life sucks. Well, that's still a judgment, right? Your life sucks is a judgment.
I would never say that.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. But it's happening every day. And there's some speakers that, like a Tony Robbins speakers, who've changed people's lives by saying it that way, by making them uncomfortable.
Maybe respond that way because they're used to being, responding that way. One of the things that Lori said that I thought was so profound as well is, really? I didn't know I was going to forget things at 21. No, but one of the really important things is about what makes her different as a coach. Like, we're all unique, right? We can all play in the sandbox together. And one of the things that makes me stand out, and the results that I get when I work together with my clients and the groups that I work with, is that I'm very careful to ease someone into change. In my world, in my training, in my coaching, it's all about it's believable, right? So I have it's believable approach. They're like, well, I'll just see how it goes. No, I don't want to throw you in the water if you're scared of water, right? I don't want to make you touch a spider, but are you open to the idea of, right? And so I'm able to ease them in a neutral, like, you can't unknow what you know. And that is so much quicker. Like I always say, you don't have to believe me, but could you suspend your disbelief? Just to suspend your disbelief for like the hour that we're working together, right? And so it's about finding this neutral space that is believable for the client who's already struggling, who's already having a hard time. They would make the changes if they knew what to do. So it's easing them in a way that's believable for them, that they have no resistance to in the process. And you'll be amazed to see how quickly they are able to transform and transition.
Love it.
So remember, you can't unknow what you know. This whole week, if you followed us all week, you can't unknow what you now know.
And I'll add in, since I'm kind of the devil's advocate, to stand on that sort of that line, and it's not a judgment. Anybody knows me knows I don't judge people in terms of like I don't basically say you're not successful because, or you should do this because, but I'll take the angle that a quote that may be more closer to judgment, which is, if you know better, you do better. My Angelou quote, because you'll know better. I mean, I think it goes back to you. If you're the receiver, when I say if you know better, you do better, I mean if you know better from your perspective. Meaning, like, now you know something new.
I know my difference. You know the difference between where you were and where you are and where you're heading, right? And I always say, if you can take this with you, I speak to all of you, if you can take this with you from this moment on and recognize that everyone is doing the best they can with where they are and what they know. It doesn't matter what it looks like to you, because here's the thing. You can all relate. You're doing the best you can with where you are and what you know. And when that changes, so does what you do and how you respond. It changes alongside. It's responsive. So if you can take this seed into the world, no matter what it looks like to you from your perspective and your eyes, and needing it to change because you don't like how it feels when you look at it, that everybody's doing the best they can with where they are and what they know, I promise you, you will find a sense of relief immediately.
Absolutely. And I would add, again, to be that the other side of that is if it's something where it's not changing, and you maybe can change your perspective, but it doesn't change what you're dealing with. And what I'm getting at is, if somebody's beating you up or abusing you, or whatever, if it's not changing, then it might mean you have to remove yourself from that situation.
Oh, well, I'll throw another mindset in there. You only get what you tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, when you get your eyes on your own paper, it's all tied in. Then you get your eyes on your own paper. Why am I tolerating this? Because I feel like I deserve it, because it's what I'm used to, because I don't think that there's any other way. Like, when your eyes are on your own paper, no matter what situation you're in, you get to like say, well, why am I tolerating this?
Absolutely. And it's my point is, if it's something where, because I mean, that could go really deep into the perspective of sometimes it's the other person. Again, we don't want to judge what's good or bad or whatever, but they might be in a situation where they're not ready to change or willing to change or get.
It's not for them to change.
But that's what I mean. So you might have to remove yourself from the situation. Absolutely.
And I have to tell you, I'm where I am right now because step number 2 led me to step number 3. And it was really hard. And I was in a relationship where I believed I was adoring and whatever, but I knew it wasn't right. And I was waiting for that person to change. And I had to change. I had to say, you know what? I'm ready for the relationship that I'm ready for. And it may challenge me. And it may bring up all this stuff that I didn't have to deal with because I was in a certain type of relationship. And I was this version. This was my role. And I'm ready to switch my role. And there's an identity crisis attached. And that's why it's great to reach out to somebody who can guide you through, who can hold your hand, who's been there, and it's all a process. And it's really not that big of a deal. We make such a big deal about it. And that's why I'm just like, flip your script. There's a lot to that. It's not as simple as it sounds, but it's a start.
Well, and the other thing is when you say, reach out to somebody who could help you make that change that you're looking for. Well, you heard from lots of them this week. And by the way, just, to back up that I believe in the people that we've had on. I mean, I've signed up for 5 things this week that people have shared, including I just purchased today Dr. Porter's headset, the actual brain tapping headset.
Yes. I need to reach out to you because I signed up for this thing, and somehow it never went through. So I don't know what I'm doing on my end, but we'll chit chat about it, because I went right on there for the brain tapping app to see, or the braintap.pro or something, to check that out. So we'll talk behind the scenes. We don't need to chit chat.
100%. And what I'll do, I'll put this out there so we hopefully remember it. But the next time we do the Flip Your Script virtual event, I'll share with people, because the headset it's a Bluetooth headset. I don't know when it'll probably be 3 weeks or a month from now. So by the time we do the next event, I'm sure I'll have like a month to use it. I'll do my own little review on it for Dr. Porter. I'll tell you what.
Also, I want to send everybody to my site for a free download. It's all about flipping your script. It's a really simple, easy download, and it's like 11 pages. I keep it really simple, but it talks about what is a mind seed, what is a thought weed, what is a belief weed, how can we plant it, how can you start nurturing, seed sowing, nurturing, and growing a life you love, one thought at a time. So it's on the front page of IlyseRothman.com. Scroll down. I think you put your email in, and boom, it will pop up, and it's an easy download. So that's a great place to start to learn how to flip your script and understand a little bit more about what may be holding you back.
100%. And I'll add to that, since I didn't really gift anything this week, that if you want to get, I didn't really talk about speaking at all this week, but I know that people that follow me want to get on more stages. They want to speak. They want to understand what that process looks like. So I have a book called The Book of Public Speaking. It's a digital book, and you can have it for free. It's pretty easy. All you have to remember, and I'll put it in the comments, but all you have to remember is thebookofpublicspeaking.com. So thebookofpublicspeaking.com, and it's a real deal book. It's 100 and some pages, and what's really neat about it is we did 7 interviews with world-class speakers. So it's not even just my take on it. You're hearing from Tom Ziglar, the 10 things his father Zig Ziglar did to become, not arguably, I would say unquestionably, one of the top motivational speakers of all time. And when I say unquestionably, I mean, if you just look at the number of people he spoke in front of and lives he impacted, I mean, the numbers are astronomical. So, this guy really knew what he was doing and impacted a lot of lives. And his son was traveling with him and watched all that. And he reveals this in the interview. So that's one interview inside this book. So yeah,
Awesome.
grab the book for free.
We had him on the last event.
Yes, we did. And he's the real deal, 100%. I might bring him on
the real deal, Corey.
I know.
All the real deal.
100%.
Doesn't matter what you're doing, who you are, where you are, and even how you feel about yourself. You are the real deal.
100%. So true, my friend. Well, Ilyse, I so adore you. We're a bit over time, so I'll let us run. And normally I would be like, we're closing this out, and it's the big event, and it's the close and everything, but it's a to be continued, because the event's coming up again fairly soon already.
Yes, and also on Friday, we'll have Don Cote as my special guest on the Flip Your Script Friday.
Well, that's the other thing. To me, it never feels like it's finished, because you have the weekly Flip Your Script. So people have constant connection with you, and there's constant interviews going on. And so, keep doing all the great things you're doing. Thank you for being here this week, Ilyse. You are definitely you feel like when we do this event, by the end of the week, it feels like you're totally in sync, and I'm in sync. And it's like we're now co-hosts of a show, like as if we've been doing it for years. So.
Exactly. We make a good team. We do.
I think so too. That's a little pat on our back. So thank you so much, Ilyse. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You owe yourself an applause for actually taking the time and tuning in, whether you could check it out for a little bit, whether you're watching the replay, or whether you're here the whole time. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. I salute you. And until next time, I'm Corey Poirier. This is Ilyse Rothman. And again, we adore you. Thank you, everybody.